Thank you and welcome to tonight's board meeting. Today is Wednesday 16th. And I just want to say good evening. Welcome to the Power Valley Unified School District Board meeting. Bienvenidos a la Junta de la Mesa Directiva para las Escuelas del Valle de Pajaro. We have translation in Spanish. Eva, where is that located?
Leticia's outside waiting for anyone in the
Okay. Leticia is out in the lobby for anyone who would like that help. Tenemos traducción en español. Si necesitas de este servicio, por favor, pasa con Leticia. Se va a pasar en el foyer. I don't know how to say. Afuera de esas puertas. Aquí está. Okay, this meeting will be live streamed and recorded. If someone would like to speak to an item on the agenda, they must complete a speaker card and hand it to Eva Renteria down at this other end prior to the start of that agenda item. I also see a lot of new faces here tonight, so I want to take a moment to establish some ground rules. There may be differences of opinion, sometimes very strong differences. Please give those speaking the same respect that you would like to receive when you are speaking. This will allow everyone to be heard and the board to conduct its necessary business. I will now ask Trustee Navarro to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And I will now move us to item 3.3, our superintendent comments. Dr. Heather Contreras, our superintendent of schools, will make a few comments.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening. I'm sure many of you are reading some of the national news, especially related to our students with frozen funds and some of the things that are happening that may impact our schools. PVUSD is probably the most impacted in our county at this time. Perhaps we will see a $10 million impact. I want to assure everyone that for this next year, we will be able to manage any impacts that would happen. We are making some swift moves to ensure that we will have funds available to continue providing all of the services that our students deserve, and we're pleased that we're going to be able to do that. It is not going to be without some changes, although we don't believe those changes will directly impact services to our students. So we're happy about that. We are in a wait and see moment right now as different things are being challenged in our government. But our approach right now is to ensure all of our families and all of our students that we are really excited about the school year, that we are ready to welcome our students back, and that we are going to do everything in the world to ensure that our schools are happy and wonderful places, that our teachers are ready to teach and excited to start this new school year. And with that, you may have noticed some of the Great Measure M projects that have started throughout our district, thanks to our voters that believe in us and agreed to make our schools great for our students. So we have some schools that are getting painted. We have some projects that are improving our roadway conditions, and we're going to see more of those happening throughout the district over the next months to come. We're really excited about that. I think one of the paint projects that looks great that you might want to check out is Landmark, which has some new fun colors. It's been gray for a long time, and we have some really uplifting color schemes on that school that was chosen by their school community. So that's exciting. This morning I was in a Pajaro Valley collaborative meeting with our leaders across the county, and we even had representatives from at the national level. We were discussing what can we do in the county to ensure safety of our residents. And we continue to meet each week looking at different strategies to ensure food safety, to ensure safety of our workers, and to ensure safety of our students so that they can continue learning, as well as to ensure for the health of our community. I'm very, very grateful to the people who show up every single week. We have amazing leaders who dedicate their time and their efforts to getting out in the community and making conditions that are better despite the challenges that we have. So I'm proud and happy to be a part of that group. We start early in the morning, and like I said, it's dedication every single week to that, and everyone is taking different actions. It's a pleasure to be in a county that people are willing to do that. This morning, I think we had over 40 members who were there, and everyone takes action immediately after that call. So people are here to support, and I really feel that in this county, and I'm proud to be a part of that. If any of you are interested in finding ways to continue to keep our students safe, please contact me, let me know. There are so many different opportunities, and right now I feel like everyone needs to be together to support one another. So thank you for being here, and I look forward to some of the things on our agenda tonight, especially we're going to be approving some more things for Measure M. Yay.
Thank you. Now I will move us on to governing board comments. This is the opportunity for each board member to make a few comments. And I do want to also just let you know that Joy does have an excused absence. I will have a statement from her later. And Trustee Turley is bravely coming to us from virtually. And Trustee Turley, did you want to do some comments tonight? Okay, I'm going to bring this microphone up to you.
Okay, ready? I apologize that this is the second meeting in a row that I haven't been able to attend in person. I just had surgery and I'm in recovery, and I hope to be live, although I probably won't be able to drive. I'll have to get my chauffeur to bring me. That's my daughter. I have the assignment for the next quarter to be our timekeeper, and at the end of each month, I'll report the number of minutes that we've spent in official meetings focused on students and other things. I would like to express appreciation for Heather Gorman for regular communications with the folks at Watsonville Charter School for the Arts as far as the project in their field to repair the leach field and some broken pipes that bring water to bathrooms. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now move on to Trustee Dodge.
I'd like to say good evening to everybody, and thank you for being here. Thank you for having this meeting at the Mello Center. Watsonville High is the heart of my trustee area, and I do my best to represent these schools. There's a lot of good stuff happening here. As you can see, the agenda, a lot of construction, a lot of upgrades. I believe the stadium's almost done. Thank you to maintenance and operations, even though it was only half completed. Watsonville High School students were able to walk, and I'd just like to thank the district for making that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Carrasco?
All right, can everybody hear me? Yeah, okay. I am a little bit sick, so I'm sorry. I'm not going to be super loud, but I wanted to highlight some positive things going on here in the district. A lot of our summer art camps have started. I have the honor to be a part of Camp Arte, and we are in our third week. This week on Tuesday, we were able to visit the city airport and sketch a bunch of airplanes and meet the personnel there. And then today we were able to go to our local donut shop and go to our libraries as well. And we love it. We've been doing art all day, and the kids just keep asking about these type of programs. And I just want to share a little bit about Camp Arte. Last week we also were able to visit a gallery. So we do art all day and visit this beautiful city, and a lot of them have a great time. So I just want to share that with you all.
Thank you. Trustee Navarro?
Okay, can you hear me now? All right, sorry about that. My microphone has no cord, or is dead. Anyway, I just wanted to say that I know we're living in really scary times right now, and every day I get anxiety reading my news alerts, but I wanted to applaud the efforts of our superintendent and her cabinet for all the work that they've done to educate our community and to train our teachers to keep our students safe, and all the resolutions that we've passed since the beginning of the year. You know, our goal as the school board is to make sure that our students have a safe environment in which to learn. So I just want to start off by saying that there's a lot of exciting things going on in the district. I look forward to the upcoming school year. Budget challenges are clearly going to be an issue, but we're doing our best to keep the cuts as far away from students as we possibly can. There will be some impacts, but you know, more to come on that. I want to thank Heather also for all the updates on the field project at Watsonville Community. The parents seem to be really happy with the communication that they've received and the information. And otherwise, it's been kind of a boring summer. So thank you all for coming out on a lovely evening.
Thank you. Trustee Medina?
Yeah, everybody can hear me, right? I'm probably too loud at this point. Thank you all for being here today. And, you know, this morning, just after 7 a.m., I, along with other community members, went off to San Juan Road, which I'm sure several of you have heard about. And we weren't out there to cause a scene, but we were out there to protect our neighbors, our families, and our students from the trauma and violence of what we thought was an ICE raid. And this wasn't hypothetical, it was real. That fear is alive in our community right now. And now, just hours later, we are being asked to decide whether to bring the same fear into our schools. At a time when our families are already being surveillanced and targeted, we are being asked to approve a contract that would increase the policing of students in a district that has already suffered enough. We cannot separate this vote from what's happening outside these walls. Our families are under attack. Our students are afraid, and instead of offering care, healing, and safety, we're being told that more policing is the answer. That's not safety. That's state control in a school uniform. And let me be clear. I'm not asking board leadership, to step down as trustees, but I am asking you to step down from your leadership roles and I know that would take courage, that would take humility, that would show that you recognize that you are not the leaders that we need in this moment. Leadership is not about authority, it's about accountability. This board has been weaponized to silence voices doing real work in our community. And the board president, who should be setting the tone, has not once acknowledged the fear our students and families are living through with these ICE raids currently happening. That silence is loud. And for the public watching, don't forget, we received an email from the Republican Central Committee urging us to improve these contracts. And I also want to remind you, 4 board seats are up for re-election. And I want you all to know the community is paying attention. And just as Luis Rodriguez, a Chicano author, former gang member, and advocate for youth once said, too many schools look like prisons, and too many children are treated like suspects instead of students. So I look forward to having our discussion tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I will first read Trustee Flynn's message. To my esteemed constituency and broader community, firstly, I am deeply disappointed that I am unable to attend tonight's meeting due to medical reasons, especially given the topic of tonight's meeting. Due to the fact that I've received threatening emails in the past to include a death threat and harassment that continues, I have opted not to join remotely as I do not feel safe publicly sharing my whereabouts ever. Secondly, I want to share how impactful our board training was last month and that I believe that implementation of the framework presented will be transformative, most importantly to our students, but to our board, administration, and community at large. When the time presents I urge you all to participate in any and all training offered to the community, as I believe it will greatly improve our shared goals and help build a foundation of shared values, which will ultimately improve student outcomes and community relations. Lastly, but not least, I am greatly saddened by the gravely concerned by what is happening in our community, state, and local community regarding recent and ongoing implementation of executive orders which profoundly affect our most vulnerable community members, our children, farm workers, and the undocumented. Understanding also that these orders are not insulary and have a broader reach than those I have mentioned. I stand with those directly impacted and will leverage my power, position, and privilege as best I can to advocate for resources and for change. I see you, I value you, and all you bring to our community. Trustee Flynn. Okay, and now for myself, I thank everyone for coming out tonight. Just a reminder that Watsonville High School is having a barbecue fundraiser and car show this Saturday. I believe it'll be out here from 12 to 4, so if you can come and support, they would greatly appreciate that. Hope you can make it. Also, due to vacations, the agenda setting committee was unable to meet last week, so any requests submitted will be brought forward at our next agenda setting committee. And then also, I have a little note. As a member of the PVUSD School Board, I want to address the growing concerns over recent federal funding cuts and their intersection with immigration policy. These developments are deeply concerning, especially as they impact some of our most vulnerable students and families. Our public schools are committed to serving every child, regardless of their immigration status. Our district will continue to uphold its values of inclusion, equity, and support for all students, but we cannot do it alone. We call on the state and federal leaders to prioritize public education and provide the necessary funding to protect and our necessary funding and protections to ensure every child, no matter where they come from, has access to a safe, highly qualified education. Thank you. And now, Now I will move us on to item 4.1, the approval of our agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I have a comment.
I'd like to move approval of the agenda with one change, that we move 9.1, 9.2 to discussion only.
Can't hear her.
Sorry, Carol, can you say that again, please?
Yep. I move approval with the exception of moving 9.1 and 9.2 to discussion only until we have a full board, and can also review and make decisions about protocols related to the SROs.
So what Trustee Turley just said is she would like to make a motion to approve the agenda with moving items 9.1 and 9.2 from action items to report and discussion items. And Trustee Medina, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was also going to make a motion to just table these two items entirely, 9.1 and 9.2, due to the fact that we have Joy Flynn, who's not going to be here, and I know this is something that she's constantly requested, and this board leadership and agenda setting team finally decides to put it on when she's not available, which is very interesting to me. So I think that we should table those two items. And also, I know that certain community members requested information that was not given to them, and myself. So I would like us to read that information first, and the public as well, so that way we could have a better discussion about this and not do this in a way that doesn't feel right.
Okay, so the motion on the table right now is from Trustee Turley to approve the agenda with moving 9.1 and 9.2 to discussion items. Did you want to second that?
No.
Okay. Do I have a second for that, or does the motion fail? The motion is to approve the agenda with moving items 9.1 and 9.2 from action items to a report and discussion item. So it would go after 10.1. It would become,
And what is the second motion on the table if that motion fails or fails to get second?
so did you make a motion? I did. Okay, so your motion would be to move, to table it as well, but not have it as a discussion item?
Table it until the next meeting.
Okay,
Yeah,
as,
I would move to table 9.1 and 9.2 to a future meeting where all board members are in attendance.
okay, we need to first address the motion that's on the table. So is there a second, or does the motion fail? Looks like we do not have a second for that motion. So that motion fails. No,
Explain why.
I'm sorry?
Explain to her why it's
We don't have public comments for that, for that.
good. Well, that's what
And so now, the second motion on the table is to approve the agenda with just the removal of 9.1 and 9.2.
for a future meeting.
And bringing it back at a future meeting. Do we have a second to that motion? Trustee Turley seconds. So I will call for a roll call vote. Trustee Medina?
Yes.
Trustee Turley?
Aye.
She said aye. Did you hear? Okay. Trustee Dodge?
No.
Trustee Carrasco? Trustee Medina? I'm sorry, Trustee Navarro? Sorry? No. No. And I also am a no. So that motion fails. So do we have a motion to approve the agenda as is?
I'll make a motion.
Before, I would like to make,
Trustee Navarro just made a motion to approve the agenda as is. Do we have a second for that motion?
can I make a friendly amendment to that motion?
No. Well, Trustee Dodge had raised his hand. Trustee Dodge, you're seconding? Okay, so we'll take it to a vote. Trustee Turley, I'm going to call on you first. So the motion is to approve the agenda as is. Your vote? I'm sorry, can you do that again? Aye. Okay, she was an aye. Trustee Dodge? Aye. Trustee Carrasco? No. No. Trustee Navarro? Aye. Trustee Medina?
No.
And my vote is aye. So that motion passes 4-2-0-2. Okay. We will now move on to the approval of our June 25th board meeting minutes. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Trustee Navarro makes a motion. Do I have a second? Trustee Dodge seconds. All those in, to do a roll call, sorry. Trustee Turley?
Aye.
Trustee Dodge? Aye. Trustee Navarro, Trustee Carrasco? Trustee Navarro? Aye. Trustee Medina?
I'll abstain since I wasn't at the last meeting.
Abstain. And I vote aye. So that motion passes 5-0-1-1. Thank you. And now I have an approval to, sorry. 5.2, approval of the June 25th, 2025 special board meeting minutes. Can I have a motion to approve? Trustee Turley? Trustee Turley says I move for motion to approve. Do I have a second? Trustee Navarro seconds. Okay, so I will do a roll call vote. I'll go to you first, Trustee Turley. Aye. Trustee Dodge? Aye. Trustee Carrasco? Trustee Navarro? Trustee Medina?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So that motion passes 6-0-0-1. Trustee Navarro has it. She had it. She did have it. I gave it to her. Okay, thank you. So I will now move to, oh, you don't have the readout? I handed that to you. Did you by chance grab it when you grabbed? No? Yeah, we don't have the readout right now. She doesn't have it. I don't have it. Okay, we will come back to our action report on closed session while we locate, oh, hand it to trustee Navarro if you can. Okay, so this is item 6.1, our action and report on closed session.
Under closed session agenda item 2.1, the board voted 4012 to approve the recommendation from the district administration for a full expulsion for student expulsion 24-25-11. Motion number 1, closed session item 2.2, I move to approve the certificated personnel report as presented by district administration on July 16th, 2025 with 6 and 13 additional action items.
I second that motion, and I will do a roll call vote. Trustee Turley? She says aye. Trustee Dodge? Trustee Carrasco? Trustee Navarro? Trustee Medina?
Aye.
And I also vote aye, so that motion passes 6001.
Motion 2.3, closed session item, I move to approve classified personnel report as presented by district administration on July 16th, 2025 with 2 and 15 additional action items.
And I second that motion. I will do a roll call vote. Trustee Turley? Aye, she did a thumbs up. Trustee Dodge?
Aye.
Trustee Carrasco? Trustee Navarro? Trustee Medina?
Aye. And also, just you guys need to be heard, or else that is a Brown Act violation. So make sure that you're speaking loudly and clearly into your microphones.
And my vote is also aye, so that motion passes 6001. That brings us now to our visitor non-agenda items. We will do 7.1, public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address issues that are not on our agenda this evening. Please know that though the Brown Act prohibits the board from engaging in discussion for non-agendized items, we are listening. Do we have any public comments?
Yes, we do. Bill Beecher, Omar Dieguez, Bobby Marchsalt, Chris Webb, Brandon Denise. I think that's it. And Mingi Bodine?
or math after the 4th grade. Call me what you want, at least I'm trying. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm going to read 13 school names. Bradley School, Paro Valley High School, Alianza, Calabasas, Amesti, Pacific Coast Charter, McQuitty, and Solo, Watsonville High School, Pajaro Middle School, Hall School, Lakeview Middle School, Aloni School. All these schools sit near fields where pesticides are being sprayed. Dangerous pesticides, the same pesticides that were being used in gas chambers during the war, that are causing harm to our community, causing cancer, learning disabilities, birth defects, contaminating our water, contaminating our Mother Earth, contaminating our youth, contaminating our farm workers, our elders, our teachers, our principals, our janitors, our indigenous community. We need to protect these farm workers and these students that are near these schools, and we need to protect the community. We need to protect the immigrant. If we don't protect these people, we don't have food on our table. So I'm asking the board to please look into how we can protect our students and how we can protect our community from these harmful pesticides. I don't know how much time I have left, but I also want to advocate for mentors in schools. And I want to express the importance of mentors in schools. You know, in our times right now, we're going through some difficult things in our state. Students are scared. Not only students, but also faculties, community members. And we need to do everything we can to protect them. We need to provide safe spaces for them so that they can come and express themselves. Thank you.
Good evening, trustees, superintendent. Good to see y'all with a little bit of summer still left. I wanted to ask you to really consider the calendar of meetings for this year, as well as my concerns about the way there seems to be a silencing and a lack of encouragement of engagement with the public. I took some time, because it's summer, to look past the last several years of meetings. And it was interesting to me that 22, 23, 24, the average meeting length was about 3.5 to 4 hours with a few outliers, right? With that, there was 18 to 19 meetings a year. This year you have 15, okay? By this point, you've had, in the past years, 10 or 11 meetings. This is number, I believe it was 9, okay? Now, since this calendar year started, meetings have jumped to, there's been one that has been under 6 hours. All the rest have been 6, 7, 8 hours. Is all of that because of packed agendas? Probably not 100%. There's a lot of factors. But the answer, I don't think, is getting rid of, for example, comments on, which again, the lawyer did not say you must get rid of comment on employee organizations. You don't have to hear them. But show that you care what we have to say and allow them. It wasn't that much extra time. And so I think encouraging the public to engage would build some trust. While I'm up here, one last thing. I mean, in the spirit of we can disagree on things, at least one thing I think we agree on, and I can disagree with, I keep hearing comments about bilingual education. And I want to say that I appreciate our bilingual education and our support of our students. I've said it before, I'll say it again, not everything that counts can be measured, and not everything that can be measured counts. And we have amazing values and resources in our community that don't always show up on the test scores, and we should not marginalize students for the sake of test scores. So thank you that I believe we all do agree on that up here, and please continue to support our students. Thanks.
I want to thank Bill for having the integrity to apologize. I feel apologies are very important. That's one of the reasons I like model continuation, because we used to do character development at Renaissance where you would get that. And then over time, it got into a place where it fell into the larger culture of just catering to whatever parent and or just like admin not trying to do anything, and then you get into real dicey scenarios where the power dynamics are kind of toxic if you're trying to do the right thing as a staff member. I wanted to disclose that in this, normally I always do the health screening. I didn't do it this year, just because I'm not trying to support Amazon in any kind of way or any type of oligarchy thing. I'm anti it. When I go to buy my supplies, they're not going to be from Amazon. I hope the rest of my colleagues in the district do the same. But just in case you see a dip in the data, no, that's why. Also, on the Youth Truth Survey results, when it came about relationships, this is not the first year that that's been a weak spot, and I would like to know what we're going to do to address that. For me, it was really telling because day one at that PD, right, you brought that up as a point, Dr. Contreras, and I just feel like I heard that, but then like we had this unnecessary layoff situation, and then we had this, you know, what my colleague was just talking about here about public speaking, and then now I have Renaissance people being moved pretty much improperly, in my view. Like they should have had the rights to normal due process through displacement and all that being shuffled now. I want to see more commitment to the relationships. I remember the vibe that Trustee Carrasco brought initially of like trying to heal. I think we need to get back to that. Also, I want to say that Trustee Carrasco had the right idea with her Family Fest. I would love to find more ways and reasons to bring my kids here. Help me sell them on like our program, even if it's just the summer stuff. So we should be finding ways to get more about solutions and strengthen our relationships. Thank you.
Oh, hello, board. It's been about a month since I've seen you all. Hope you're enjoying your summer. I know I've been trying to enjoy mine, and I've been sunburned basically the entire time. I know that I'm not going to have enough time during my PVFT comments tonight, so I just wanted to raise a couple issues during public comment time. One of those being a potential pay issue for our migrant seasonal Head Start teachers who didn't quite receive their full $1,200 bonus. So I want to thank the payroll department for looking into that right when I raised that concern. But that sort of dovetails into that we have been asking Human Resources to put on a payroll, like a training for our migrant seasonal Head Start folks so they can better understand their pay stubs, their deductions, because for those who work a split shift, they're supposed to get a stipend, and they're only supposed to work a split shift for half the season. So we're hoping that the district can work with us to put together some type of understand your pay stub training so our members have that information. I also want to share that we have negotiated new language in our CBA that will be taking action next year, and one of those is prep time for our adult education teachers. Our adult education teachers have never had any prep time. The only time they're getting paid is that time they're in front of their students, so they've had to always prep on their own. Well, thank you for accepting some new language to give them prep time. And the understanding is that time is in addition to whatever their teaching time is. So if you were teaching 17 hours and you get an hour of prep time, you still have your 17 hours of teaching plus 1 hour. And what we're fearful is happening is that it's going to do the opposite, and that prep time is going to cut into their teaching time. So I just asked the district to make sure that the contract is being respected with regards to new language. And then also seeing more transparency from the agenda setting committee, I think would go a long ways. That was one of the issues we had with the old board. And thank you for your time.
Yes, I'd like to address the issue of pesticides use in this valley. I work in agriculture, that's my professional work. Every chemical that's used, that's approved, has been reviewed by US EPA and the Department of Pesticide Registration, or Cal EPA. They've all been subject to environmental fate, toxicology, residue, efficacy. They are safe, okay? A couple of my kids here raised all 9 kids in this valley. None of them have cancer. Most of their lives we lived on the outskirts of town, in and around fields. And I just want to dispel that notion that we're using chemicals from World War II gas chambers. Simply not true, just baloney. Also, ag, both organic and conventional ag, brings millions of dollars back to the Salinas and Watsonville area. And it supports the tax base that pays all the teachers' salaries and keeps the schools intact. So I just want to dispel that. It's kind of mind-blowing that we're subject to that in such a well-educated society with an internet. The other thing I wanted to say is my wife grew up in a Spanish-speaking home. She went to school and was immersed in English. We need English immersion. Bilingual ed holds students back. I've seen it. I've been in Watsonville since 1988. I've watched it. So, yes, have teachers that can communicate with the kids, but immerse them in English. We only hold them back and do them a disservice. Absolutely. I've seen it. Now, most of them are smart and they can do some, but they're ill-prepared to go to a university education with a lifetime of bilingual ed at the grammar and high school. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Dane Odegaard. That's my father. I was raised in fields, subject to many pesticide sprays, and I can tell you for a fact, I'm healthy and I'm virile. Okay? I would like to also posit that our education system in this county and state and federal neglect to properly give nutritional information, okay, and evidenced by the pandemic of 2020. Stay in home, cover your faces, don't go outside, don't get sunlight, don't get exercise. No, it was all fear-based. We need to educate about health the right way, and we have some suggestions for that. And that's all. Thank you.
Hello. Well, imagine a country that's infiltrated by spies and also is fighting war with the enemy, and people are suffering from casualty. And a few years after the war, the government decided to disband the military because the infiltrators said that they are intimidated by the presence of the military. So this brings me back to this the phenomena that we are having today, that families, students, and staffs are not feeling safe, just like the government did not provide proper protection for the community. So I want you to think about this and make wise decisions. Thank you.
Are there any public? Okay, scene. Is it on? Testing, testing. Testing? Okay, thank you. So seeing no other public comments, I will now move us on. That's all the cards we have for item 7.1. Who did you hand them to? To Eva?
Sorry, they got mixed in with 9.1 because some of these 7s look like a 9. Dr. Barraza, Elias Gonzalez, and Bernie Gomez.
Well, I'm Dr. Barraza. I am from Area 5. I had a different comment, but after hearing comments, I just had to speak up on this. I'm going to use up my time for that. It's really disappointing that we keep hearing such racist comments as like, we should not be teaching bilingual education. Well, I am an immigrant to this country. I am bilingual en inglés y en español, muy fluente en los dos idiomas. And this is the only country in the world where people only speak one language. I do not understand why people think speaking one language is better than more than one. There's a joke in Europe. What do you call a person who speaks one language? An American, because everywhere else in the world, people speak more than one. I do not understand that mentality. And no, people, the test scores are not because our education's poor. People do not understand that it's a whole, the district talks about the whole child. The whole child includes mental health, includes resources, includes all that stuff. All those things affect academic performance. Do people not understand that? So when test scores are low, look at the whole child. What is that child missing? It is not just academics. You all need to understand the whole child means everything, not just academics. Please get that in your head. This is really frustrating to keep hearing these ignorant comments when it takes a lot more than just school for kids to learn.
Yeah, exactly. How do you? I'm going to say ditto to that. But yeah, no, but thank you. First, well, good evening, board. Again, just want to speak briefly about something that folks have already shared, and that's affecting, it's taking an emotional toll on our young people, right? Those immigration raids that are happening. For children in mixed status families, the fear of losing a family member is very real, right? When raids happen in our community, students often experience lasting trauma, chronic anxiety, depression, and deep sense of instability. This kind of stress follows them into the classroom and makes it hard for them to learn and feel safe. We're experiencing that, right? And there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, and our kid's body is keeping the score right now, right? That goes for all of us here, right? Again, this is a human issue, right? So I really urge the board to recognize this trauma and consider how our schools can better support affected students, right? That might include more mental health resources, staff training, or simply spaces where students can feel seen and protected. But it also means looking at what we're doing today and seeing if that works. And if it's not working, especially with everything happening today, we need to get rid of it, right? That's just the reality of it, and that's what takes courage and leadership. And I'm looking at you all. You all have the ability to make young people feel seen, and your decisions today will impact young people in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, buenas tardes. Good evening. I'm Bernie Gomez with Milpa. I mean, I have family, I think, in every district here in this schools, in the city, in the county, right? And part of my comment, I was sitting there and listening to the elder man, you know, talking, and you know, the only reason why that ag industry is so rich or makes so much money is because we harvest it, we pick it. You know what I'm saying? Without us, that business ain't shit, excuse my language, you know, because you ain't gonna do it, you know what I'm saying? And I'm all about, you know, dialogue, understanding, you know, compassion, all that stuff, you know, but sometimes there's just some comments that just, you know, a little bit, just, you know, you just need to kind of read up on some of this stuff a little bit more. Unfortunately, right, we, you know, most of the community here in Watsonville, it lives under the poverty line, even though they're such hard workers. And that translates into academic success also, you know? It's not just about coming to school and what type of curriculum they're gonna learn. No, there's a social impact that goes along with that. You know what I'm saying? So pesticides, all that stuff, you know, it's just, I can go on and on. But what I do want to say, though, is that for those that, you know, are reading or listening to what's going on in immigration and all that fear, you know, that's happening, that's not something new to us. It might be something new to you, you know, that now it's so prevalent, right? That racism, that white supremacy, that American nationalism, the Christian nationalism is so prominent, right? But for us, we've been experiencing that, you know what I'm saying? So take that into consideration, that Watson was 82% brown. You know what I'm saying? So
That's your
anyways,
time.
thank you. Yeah.
Okay, I will now move us on. Can you hear me? Okay. I will now move us on to items 8.1. This is our organizational comments. This is a time to hear from our employee organizations. Each will have 5 minutes, and we will start with PVFT.
All right. I want to thank the board and the district's employees for being here tonight. I missed the last meeting because I was in Southern California for a CFT training. Unfortunately, while I was there, I was supporting our members who were being informed that they were being transferred to work at other schools or different positions at their same school, and the district wasn't following the contract with regards to those moves. Moves like this should have happened on or by May 20th. Time and time again, our members suffer from the disorganization of this district, and we're tired of it. I know you've all seen me up here heated, and you guys probably think that I come to these things looking for a fight, but honestly, I'm not. But I am always going to speak up for our members who feel like they're being kicked around, because ultimately, our students are going to suffer from all this disorganization and chaos. We have positions that should be up on EdJoin, and yet they aren't there. When the district is not being transparent by posting vacancies or collaborating with us, it raises concerns that you're looking for some back channel way to save money on the backs of our students. We are going into this year down 3 nurses from last year. The district shared numbers with me that show that they could be staffed appropriately with 2 less nurses, but why are we not hiring to replace the late resignation that we had? Year after year, our bargaining unit is blamed for the mismanagement of our budget and the district's deficit spending. But far too often, we have been kept out of the loop. I would like to go on record and ask the district to share with us what you are planning to do in response to the loss of federal funds that will impact migrant seasonal Head Start, after-school programs, adult education, and potentially more. I also want to know what the district is planning to do in response to the federal declaration barring the children of the undocumented from Head Start programs. Include us in being part of the solution for these. Please don't leave us out to the dark, because most of the time when our members have a question, the first person they call is me. And so often I feel like I'm trying to speak for the district, and really those answers need to be coming from you all. And if you partner with us, I'm better able to explain these things to our members. Back in June, I asked the district for information on what we have planned as a response to potential ICE activity on or near our schools, and we've yet to be provided with anything. And according to Lookout Santa Cruz, there have been at least 8 documented incidents of ICE activity in the city limits since Trump took office. By not having a plan, you are all derelict in your duties. We want to be part of the solution because we're going to be the ones on the front lines when ICE agents show up to kidnap one of our students. The district needs to come out with a firm statement and a plan of action to keep our students safe, especially with ICE agents empowered to conduct their raids in complete anonymity. Who is to say that some right-wing militia groups don't start posing as bounty hunters or ICE agents to start kidnapping children or harm people? I want to end by highlighting the work that's being done by a coalition of our partners, including Safe Ag, Safe Schools, Californians for Pesticide Reform, and Earth Justice in suing the Monterey County Ag Commissioner for allowing our students to be poisoned. Because that is what's happening. They are being poisoned. We are part of this lawsuit, and we're proud to fight for our students because they deserve to come to schools without being poisoned by cancer-causing chemicals. I am sure you would agree with that, but why have you remained silent for so long on the issue of pesticide use near our schools? You should be standing alongside us and helping us fight for our students. For our big ag lobbyists who are here tonight, the issue is that the politicians who approve these pesticides and say they're safe are bought and paid for by big ag. So what they're saying is worthless. When Europe has banned so many of these chemicals and we're still using them because of lobbyists who lie. And then the people who are charged with keeping us safe, like the Monterey Ag Commissioner, they're not following the laws that we have on books. So you can go ahead and say, oh, these pesticides are safe. Look, we have a process. Well, we're being lied to. They're not safe, and the process isn't being followed. At 2 of these schools, we have an infant development center within 1 mile radius of where these pesticides are being dropped. We have young children who are being poisoned. Studies show that children breathe at twice the rates of adults. The studies that look into the safety of pesticides, they don't take into account the long-term impact of being poisoned from the moment you're born to the moment you either die or leave this community. So I just want to say one last thing before I go with regards to some of the comments that we've heard about blaming English learners for the challenges of our district. We are all a product of the conditions we're socialized into, nature versus nurture. Nurture, it's so expensive to live here. Our families are living in multi-generational, multi-family homes, working multiple jobs. Our kids are dropping out of school to get jobs to help support their families. We're disadvantaged when it comes to nurture and the nature. We're being poisoned, y'all.
Thank you.
And
I will
point
now.
of information.
Sorry?
A point of information. There are 3 children in my area who do have childhood cancer. So I just want to put that on the record, that is happening right now. And I hope these ag people that are here actually donate to their fund to put their money where their mouth is, because no student should be going through that. And that was due to the impact of pesticides on their parents.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I will now move us on to 8.2 CSEA. Do we have anyone here from California School Employees Association? Okay, seeing none, I will move us on to 8.3 CWA. I don't believe Mike Floor is here. He was here earlier for closed session comments. So no, we'll move on to now item 8.4, PAVAM. Do we have anyone from Pajaro Valley Association of Managers? Okay, seeing none, I will move us on to our action items. And first for tonight is 9.1, approve Watsonville Police Department SRO contract. This report will be presented by Heather Gorman,
President Flores.
our interim Executive Director of Student Services. Hold on 1 minute. Yes, Trustee Medina?
President Flores, before we begin discussing on item 9.1, I'd like to make a motion to table this item. Trustee Flynn is not present tonight, and both parents and I have been requesting critical information that still has not been provided. I believe it would be irresponsible to move forward without full board representation and the transparency our community deserves.
Okay, I'm sorry, I cannot take that motion. It was
You're going to violate Brown Act again.
I'm sorry, but Trustee Flynn was aware, and she had hoped to be here.
And she had also requested it
Unfortunately, she
multiple
wasn't
times for the agenda setting committee, which was not approved by you all. So if you're going to dismiss my motion, I would like to challenge you on that and put it to a vote with the board.
We already voted in the beginning. There was
According
a motion on the table to approve the agenda with the removal of these items.
You can read
That
a statement
motion
during
did
the
not
action 9.1 before
pass.
discussion begins. The
And
correct
I'm
time to
not
make a
gonna violate
motion
Brown
to
Act
table
again.
is as soon as the item is being introduced, which it is being introduced right now,
Okay.
before any debate starts. So
Okay,
if you
this
don't know
is
Robert's
exactly-
rules,
Trustee Medina, this is exactly why we have counsel here.
Where's
is
counsel?
Because you bully me just like this at every meeting. The one time I say, okay, I don't need to come, I think we have it situated.
this isn't
you're
about
still
feelings. This is
doing it.
about following the
No,
bylaws. And it
I am not
says
going to violate the
right
Brown Act
here.
and add another motion that's not agendized. We are going to continue with this
The item is agendized, right? Because we're going to be discussing it. That's it. So that's why my motion is on the table.
We've
So
already
you want to shut
voted
down the meeting? We're going to do that
No,
because
we've
my
already
motion is on the
voted to-
table.
We are proceeding with item 9.1.
My motion is on the table.
Your motion's
Yeah,
denied.
y'all would like me out.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The motion is on the table. Where's our counsel?
Our motion your motion has been denied. We are going to proceed.
You can't deny it
with
'cause I'm
item
challenging you on that.
9.1. I'm not going to.
I'm challenging you on that, and you have to follow our rules. Because Martha's watching right
No.
now, and she's going to send in another request.
What rules? We are not we're doing Robert's rules. We have our board policy, and our board policy does not say that we can do this. And so we are not going to do this. We are going to proceed with item 9.1.
Tell me what parliamentary procedure is. Please define parliamentary procedure. It's a point of information.
Thank you. We're going to move on. The board voted, and we are going to move on with this item.
Point of
Thank you,
order.
Heather Gorman.
Point of order.
No, Gabe. No,
Trustee Flores?
Medina.
Good evening, President Flores, Board of Trustees, Dr. Contreras. I'm Heather Gorman, the Interim Executive Director of Student Support Services. We have tonight two contracts that we would like the board to approve. What you see right now is a recap from a report and discussion item that Ben Slider brought forward to the board in June regarding a survey that was presented. So I'm not going to go over all of the data on this slide tonight. It was already discussed quite extensively a couple meetings ago. But in short, what the data was showing us is that the students, staff, and parents are in favor of SROs. So we respectfully request, and then if you go to the next item, we respectfully request your approval for the School Resource Officer SRO contract. And I'd like to highlight a few key points from the agreement between the district and the city. So the city commits to staffing. The city will recruit and assign 2 qualified sworn police officers. Collaboration, officers will work directly with the district to promote safe and supportive school environments. There's 2 documents, so if you can share the other document that's actually the contract, that would be great. Engagement, officers will participate in the district's attendance review board and support improvement of attendance and school engagement. And compensation, the city will fully fund, train, and equip the supervise the officers with a total cost no more than $291,630, and that's what the district reimburses for the cost of the officers. The district commits to coordination. The district will coordinate the services of the assigned officers. Selection and input. While the city selects the officers, the district will have input in the process. A liaison role, a district employee will be designated to work directly with the city's police chief or designee. And training, the district will provide training in key areas, which may include, and this is not in the contract, but I added these as ideas of what we could include in training, is positive behavior intervention and supports, trauma-informed practices, restorative practice and conflict resolution, special education rights and responsibilities. So that's basically the term of the agreement, and the contract remains in effect unless terminated by either party. And we believe this partnership strengthens school safety while aligning with our values of support and inclusion. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. And now, do we have any public speakers to this item?
So Trustee Flores, many of these cards say 9.1 or 9.2. Is it possible to do 9.1 and 9.2 and then combine the comment time?
No. Does the card say one or the other? Or does the card says both?
Half of them say both.
Okay, well, they will, when you call them up, they can pick which one they would like to speak to. So,
No, you can't. You're violating Brown Act, dude. Look, you can't do that.
what? Each comment card has an
I'll
item.
let you figure it out since you know everything, all right? And you tried
Call-
shutting me down,
Call
so.
anyone that's on 9.1.
Only 9.1?
Yeah, and then if they put 9.2, just add them to the next item.
Right. Okay. It just says.
Yeah, so Trustee Navarro, just anyone who has 9.1 on it, call all of those first, and then if they have 9.2, put them in the next stack, but we are gonna cap this at 20 minutes.
I would like to move to extend the timing to all cards.
Well, that's why I was trying to combine the time to speak for these 2 items.
Well, that's why you make a motion on it. So I would like to make a motion to extend the time to all the cards. Are you going to take that motion this time?
Okay, so according to our board policy, you are not allowed to make a motion for that. I could have, at the beginning of the meeting, made a motion to.
Okay. This meeting is going sideways. We're not prepared. You didn't give out the right information, so I would like to make a motion
Gabe,
to adjourn the meeting.
No. Oh my goodness. Okay, we are going to go with anyone who called
I
9.1.
would like to make a
and we
motion
will
to
cap it at 20
adjourn
minutes. Thank
the
you.
meeting, which you have to take. It is a motion. Are you denying that? That's another lawsuit that's coming to us. I am making a motion to adjourn the meeting, and you have to put that to a vote. That is a secondary motion.
Do you want me to take this motion?
Why are you asking her? You're the president. You need to take the motion because it's a procedural policy that you have. I'm crazy. Why don't you put that on the mic? Put that on the mic since you're having this little discussion.
But if we do it, it's Brown Act violation.
No, you're not. You're violating the Brown Act by not approving the
Okay,
motion.
Trustee Medina has a motion to suspend the meeting. Do we have a second?
It's not suspend. You got to get the correct language. I move to adjourn the meeting.
Trustee Medina makes a motion to adjourn this meeting. Does he have a second? Seeing none, we will move on. Motion fails. Okay, go ahead and call all the comments for 9.1.
Kristen Hurley, Brandon Johnson, Aaron Johnson, Andrew Cortero, Rory Odegaard, Scott Tyler.
Here's the Brandon for you for this meeting.
She only called a few. She'll call more once this group is done.
I only call up a certain amount at a time.
Okay.
Are we good?
We're good.
Okay. Kristen Hurley. Here I live in Aptos, mom of 3. I'm actually an Aptos High alum, my husband and I. So we've been here a long time, lived in Watsonville. I'm super invested in the district, the county, but specifically this district. And just my main point tonight, real simple, you know, the board positions here, the Board of Trustees, you guys, this is nonpartisan seats. They're non-political. It's not this side or that side. What you guys are in your role is community representatives for the school district. Your responsibility is to safeguard the education of our children. And on this issue, I really think, you know, as representatives yourself, we have fantastic data on how the community feels about the SRO program. We just saw the stats up there. Multiple surveys, especially this last one in June, show that the community support is super strong for this. So I'm here just to remind you guys of that's how the community feels. We love it. I heard a lot tonight about keep our students safe. Every single one of you guys said that and pledged that that's your priority. And so under that umbrella, I think this program has been successful. It will continue to be successful, and it's something the community really, really does support. So with that, thank you so much.
We're all here because we love kids, right? So let's get along. Come on. My name is Brandon Johnson. I served as a local pastor in Santa Cruz for the last 20 years. I've been a first responder, ocean lifeguard for 10 years on some of the busiest beaches in Southern California. I've worked as a junior lifeguard instructor, a high school teacher, a football coach, youth and young adult pastor. And for decades, I've dedicated my life to guiding, mentoring, and protecting the next generation. And if there's one truth I've learned about everything about when it comes to safety is that safety depends on 2 things, education and proximity. Proximity means nearness, closeness. That's why we call Jesus Emmanuel. He is God with us. As a lifeguard, we didn't shelter kids from the ocean. We trained them how to navigate powerful swells and riptides. And when emergencies occurred, we were already there as lifeguards. That is why I and so many people here strongly support the SROs on campus. The education and the proximity are essential. SROs are more than just security. When done right, they build trust with students and faculty. They deter violence. They stop it before it happens. They model honor, courage, public service. If those relationships are not happening, then the answer is not to shut the program down, it's to make it better, to teach kids how to interact with public servants and how that they're on their side. We need to educate students, not speak fear over them. And if they are scared, we need to show them that these people are here for their good. If you look at the numbers that came through, so a lot of students were like, I don't know what to think about this. But all the parents said, we want them. And there's a very small percentage that says they don't. Let's be clear, everybody in the room here is here because we love students, we care about them, we want their best. But national political agendas and misinformation are giving outside pressure to what the community actually has said they want. So really, we're wasting our time on this because the people have already spoken, voting the sheriff, voting in the...
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that it? Okay, thank you so much, and I hope you guys do what's best for the students and what the families have asked for. Thank you.
Hello. I just want to say God bless each and every one of you for the work that you're doing for our community. Thank you. I'm here to read comment for Mike LaLure, Chair of the Santa Cruz Republican Central Committee. Good evening. I'm here today to advocate for the continued presence of school resource officers on our campuses. Our children and educators deserve safe learning environments, and SROs are essential to ensuring their safety. In 2021, our community experienced a devastating tragedy at Aptos High. A 17-year-old student, forgive me if I pronounce his name wrong, Gerardo Sarabia, was fatally stabbed on campus, an incident linked to gang activity with no SRO present to intervene or deter. This heartbreaking loss shook our community and exposed vulnerabilities in our schools when law enforcement is absent. Sheriff Jim Hart stated that while no one can say an SRO would have definitively prevented this tragedy, their presence deters dangerous behaviors such as carrying weapons and ensures quicker response times in emergencies. We cannot allow our campuses to go unprotected. Since that tragedy, PVUSD responded to community concerns by reintroducing SROs in September 2021, beginning with a pilot program in our schools. This program isn't just about policing, it's about protection with purpose. Each SRO is paired with a mental health clinician, creating a balanced approach that emphasizes safety while addressing students' emotional needs. This hybrid model tackles concerns about over-policing, ensuring officers are trained to de-escalate and support, not just enforce. Parents like Mirella Gonzalez and Daisy Brooks have expressed relief, noting frequent fights and safety worries that SROs help address. The financial costs of safety are real, but we're not alone in this effort. The Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office has committed to covering approximately 25% of the SRO's program's costs, easing the strain on PVUSD's budget. The total annual cost for SROs and clinicians at our 3 high schools is about $1.24 million.
Thank you. That's your time. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Good evening. Appreciate y'all being here. I know there's a lot of political theater. I am a security officer. I worked for Meta. I worked for Twitter. I applied for, correctional officer. Didn't get in. But I think the idea that we exist to just terrorize people and harass them and create a climate of fear is not true. Majority of people who do want to go into service wanted to do it to protect people. We care about people. And we shouldn't conflate what's happening on the geopolitical level with the immigration raids with the actual need for public safety. I think it's just creating a lot of confusion for people. We should really stick to the topic, which is keeping our schools safe. Thank you for your attention to the matter.
Yeah, I think I heard it said quite a few times, the number one priority is the safety and security of our students. I really believe that, and thank you for those who brought that up earlier. My name is Scott Tyler, and I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the overwhelming majority of parents, teachers, and community members who support keeping trained special school resource officers, our law enforcement brothers and sisters on campus. I'm not alone. I represent the majority of parents who expect this board to prioritize one thing above all else, the safety of our children. Trained law enforcement professionals are equipped to handle emergencies that educators cannot. When tragedy strikes and a uniformed, trusted officer on site means a response in seconds, not minutes. That matters, and that saves lives. SROs don't just respond to violence, they prevent it. They build relationships, de-escalate conflict, and deter crime. Parents see the impact firsthand: safer campuses, fewer serious incidents, and a trusted adult who's ready to step in when needed. There are those who say that law enforcement is inherently racist. That claim is not just dangerously broad, it is factually wrong, and the data does not support it. neither does the personal experience of most of the families in the district. If we have concerns about racial equity, we deal with that through oversight, training, and accountability, not by removing the single best line of defense our students have against real threats. Let me be clear, supporting a law enforcement officer presence is not about militarizing education. It's about acknowledging reality and acting responsibly. Schools today face threats ranging from violence to drug trafficking, and yes, even the horrifying possibility of an active shooter. To pretend otherwise is to abdicate our duty as parents and community leaders. Loud does not mean right. I recognize there is a small but vocal group opposing SROs, but being loud doesn't make you representative. The vast majority of us, parents, teachers, and neighbors, support a professional, well-trained law enforcement presence on campus. This board has an obligation to represent all of us and accountable to the entire community.
Thank you. That's
Thank you.
fine. Thank you.
Hello, so my name is Roy Odegaard. I'm a fourth generation Californian, a property owner in California. And I, for one, stand with the parents that want and need to have these officers that are trained to be at these schools to represent law and order. We are a representative republic based on law and order, not a flim-flam operation of whatever the whim of the day is based on political clout. So I'm going to continue to support this, speak with my neighbors. I've also heard from law enforcement officers that have done this job for the Santa Cruz County Sheriffs, and they say you can't begin to understand the importance of having an officer there. Just the very presence prevents problems. Ne'er-do-wells and evildoers back off when they see a badge. Okay? It's the reality. Like when we were kids, we saw mom or dad coming, we were doing something wrong, we skedaddled. And then the last thing I'll say, it's a Latin phrase. It's not rex lex, it's lex rex. The king isn't law, the law is king. Thank you.
Did we have Andrew Canton yet? All right, next up we have Tracy Martin, Omar Dieguez, Rachel Dupar, Dom Odegaard, but you just talked on that last one, right? I'm gonna skip over. Donnie Greer, and Bobby Varnchesalt, and Chris Webb. Oh, sorry, then John. Come on down.
Okay, if you were called, go ahead and begin.
Just to make sure, I'm Troy Martin, not Tracy Martin. Is that my part? Okay.
I don't have my glasses.
Well, hello, my name is Troy Martin, and I live and raise my kids in this district, I think District 5. Trustees of the PVUSD Board, President Olivia Flores, Vice President Misty Navarro, and the rest, thank you for your commitment to your post. So before you consider removing school resource officers, again, please recall, as was noted, that in July 2020, this board voted to end SRO program, and by August 2021, a 17-year-old student was stabbed to death at Aptos High. Although SROs were later reinstated, PVUSD now faces wrongful death lawsuits for the trustees of that time removal on the grounds that SROs directly contributed to violence. Now that has been proved wrong, but the price was too high. Someone was murdered. So removing SROs a second time places student at risk, and it's just not learning from history. Police presence on campus doesn't just serve as a deterrent. They bring peace and allow students something precious to concentrate on learning and growth. Board, do not neglect your responsibility. Do not put anyone's lives at risk. I urge you, do not repeat the fatal mistake of the past. And Olivia Flores, thank you for your leadership in all of this and for putting up with bullies. You have set a wonderful example in all of this. When a man must use his aggression and not his reasons to get a point across. That is a bully. And Gabriel Medina, you are that bully, and it will take courage, and it will take humility, but I encourage you to step down as someone this board doesn't need at this time.
This is tough, y'all. I think you come knowing what you want to say, and it's so hard not to respond to so much. First of all, I come as somebody who was on the Social Equity Committee here in Watsonville. I was on the Oversight Committee for this pilot. I am on the Chiefs Advisory Committee here in Watsonville. Okay, so I at least come with some understanding. It doesn't make me any better, but it has some understanding. From friends who work in juvenile justice, I'd like to clear up my understanding, and I can be corrected, is the stabbing at Aptos was not gang-related, so we need to be careful what we say. And it was admitted by somebody here. That would not have been stopped by an SRO. So please stop weaponizing that for what you want. That is not okay to that student or to those families or to our schools. We can have a conversation about this, but that is not fair. What I do want to say, it's hard because there's so much. Please read my grandmother's hands. I understand. I agree. We all want safety. But safety for who? And what students are we talking about? Let's not ignore, there's obviously a difference between Aptos and Watsonville in our perspectives right now, okay? And that needs to be acknowledged and addressed and talked about. But beyond that, and my grandmother's hands, I feel like there's a lack of understanding from the other side as to the generational trauma that is passed on. But what needs to be addressed is none of that. For me, the conversation has shifted. This board, this district is talking about laying off teachers next year in huge numbers. We are an educational institution. We are not here to hire police officers. And if you're going to spend this money to put police officers, I want you to look those teachers in the eye who you lay off and say that this was more important for our students' education. And at the end of the day, if this is truly a public safety issue, it is our city and county that should be paying for this to happen. So while I may disagree with it, if we're gonna put it on, when we are in a financial crisis, Sheriff Hart, we have a different sheriff, I get that, but he said this is not about money. If it's not about money, don't go to him saying, we'd like you to pay. We say, we will do this only if you are paying for it. You need, like, this is a public service. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby.
I always write a speech, and I can never read my speeches because it doesn't go as planned. Gabriel, you are a leader in this community. We stand with you. You are not a bully. He is doing his job by advocating for the people of this community. He is listening to the people of this community. And Ms. Flores, with all due respect, if you can't do your job, if you feel too attacked, then maybe you should step down. Because this community keeps on showing up and we are not being heard. We need to be heard. We're living in this community. We feel what these effects of SROs are being in the schools. I work with students in the schools at Pajaro Valley High School. We've had several SRO incidents where our students are being cited for stuff that's not even happening on campus and are being put into the court system. This summer, I keep on going to court to advocate for these students. They're getting expelled because SROs have stepped into it. Why are SROs being granted the permission to come into our campuses and cite our students without a parent being present? Why is that okay? They're minors. There should be a parent present at all times. They can't make decisions on their own. Why are SROs citing our students for stuff that's happening off campus? Why are they coming into our schools to police? And if you guys don't understand the effects of SROs and what they do to our community, you guys will never understand it because you're not brown and black like us. We live it every day. We deal with it every day. And I myself, because of Aptos High School where I went, am still dealing with the effects of the SROs on campus.
I just want to say thank you. My name is Rachel. I'm in District 2, and I want to say thank you board members for what you're doing for the students, for this county, for the families and the parents. So thank you very much for that. My daughter was a classmate of that young man that lost his life, who died in 2021. So this is very near. My daughter was his classmate. We want to keep the SROs on campus at Aptos High and also use the resources of the community and the Sheriff's Department to keep the SROs, keep our kids and our staff safe. If there's creative ways to fund the SROs with the budgets, constraints, or whatever, call on the community. We're here to help you guys and support that. We definitely want to help save the program, and we do want to support you guys in providing a safe, diverse, multicultural environment so that kids can be kids and staff can do their job and promote academic excellence. We want to get California back on the map for educational achievements. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Donald Greer, and I come from you from a different perspective. I came from a criminal background, and I can tell you this, on school campuses, I ran things. And it wasn't because the teachers were not paying attention, it was because there was no security there. And I want to tell you something, if you think security on campus doesn't save people's lives or deters people, I'm telling you from a different perspective, it does. And the other thing is, when I see how the board here reacts and how you communicate and during these meetings, it's very disrespectful to have these kind of arguments up there like that. And the way you, young man, the way you speak to people is disrespectful. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dominic Odegaard. I was born and raised here in Watsonville. I just want to stand in support of approving the funding of the SROs. I would like to put out there and see if you could really, is there any circumstance where taking away law enforcement actually decreases violence or, discrimination, racism, whatever you guys call it? Yeah, I just want to kind of affirm that what the guy said is that you may have these stats of, oh, this person, has been, being cited or whatever your reasons are, but it's true when you don't see all the things that could have happened. And I just want to say that, yeah, this session, with the way that the discourse has gone, is kind of a clown show, and I think it's really due to one person here, and it's extremely embarrassing. Anyways, thank you.
Oh my gosh. I think so much about this. I heard one gentleman here mentioned law and order, and I feel like that white supremacist term kind of really encapsulates the situation here. And it's also these criticisms of Medina similar, because really you're upset that he's enforcing the rule of law. That's what we really need. We need the rule of law. We don't want law and order. I don't feel safe with law and order. That's actually why, as a union man, for there to even be these type of contracts, I need protections, because I don't want another one of my students, like in the 23-24 school year, illegally searched. I didn't like that. If, as a parent with kids, I want my kids to be protected, and I know that strong systems, strong engaged staff that work together, that's how you keep people safe. This has always been a cop-out. As far as I'm concerned, the county sheriff's office owes us back pay. This shouldn't even be on the table until we get paid back. And we need a plan for cost sharing moving forward. If those things aren't happening, this should be off the table. Also, I think Medina had it right a couple meetings ago when we brought this up, and he said it's neglectful, it's a Band-Aid solution. That's right, because you know what? It hasn't deterred. If you look across the country, there's been cases where they have SROs and there's still incidents. And sometimes it does take minutes. And the SRO who was at this school was not fitter than me. He was not going to get to my kids before I was. I'm as strong as anyone probably here. And plenty fit, I'll handle it. I've done the Alice training. I've done that well. There's other solutions. This is not it. It's not even beginning to address the problem properly. I think Ben Slider, when he talked about this in the PBIS, he's right on principle. And if we look at model continuation, you can see what those things look like in practice. Instead, the district decided to move away from that, and then that 23, 24 year where we have SROs, kid brings a gun, so it didn't deter. And there was upset with how teachers responded to these mismanagement situations. Another prerequisite would be teachers, when you're dealing with mismanagement, here's how you should deal with it. We need training on that if you're going to do these things.
Okay.
Thank
you, Mr. Webb.
Next up, we have Casey Clark, Dane Odegaard, Brandon Denise, Dr. Franklin, and Mingy Bodine.
Good evening, President Flores, Superintendent Contreras, and trustees. I am here this evening to remind everyone up at the dais or table, whatever you want to call this here in the Mellow, that you are not here to vote on your opinion. You are not here to vote on your feelings, okay? This is about facts. This is about data. This is about representing the people who were in the survey that it shows overwhelmingly support SROs and mental health clinicians. I hope that everybody up here can put their personal issues aside and their personal feelings aside and use the data before you. Now, as a quick personal aside, I'm going to do something that I typically do not do, and this does pertain to 9.1 and many other things that have been spoken on and will be spoken on. There is a small group of dissenters for this item specifically, and I have heard many of things this evening that have made my stomach churn. And it's all race baiting, it's, comments like white supremacy and stuff like that. It's just unacceptable. I know that this group has painted me into a box because they judge people by the color of their skin, but I'm here to announce that I am a Black African American individual. Not only that, I am Watsonville's first African American city council member, okay? This isn't about black or white. I was raised around police, okay? I was raised in schools where we had security. As a Black kid, and all the other kids I attended schools with, of all different colors of the rainbow, races, creeds, socioeconomic backgrounds, it was not an issue, okay? We appreciated the safety when somebody was starting, okay, and I'm done. Thank you.
Greetings again. I'm going to read a prepared statement with the caveat of we are a human race, one race, same blood. My name is Dane Odegaard. I'm here tonight because I deeply care about student safety and believe that school resource officers are a key part of this equation. We all remember the horrifying stabbing at Aptos in 2020. It's a painful chapter in our district's history. And what made it worse is that it happened right after the board removed SROs. The public has spoken, not just once. In 2022, community surveys showed widespread support for SROs from parents, teachers, and staff. This year, student trustee Benjamin Slider brought the student voice into the conversation with his survey, and again, the message was clear. Students feel safer with SROs. Some have said we wouldn't move forward because the federal budget is uncertain, but our children's safety should not be a bargaining chip. We don't cut fire alarms for emergency drills because the funding might change. Safety should never be optional. I commend the sheriff and the Watsonville PD for covering 25% of the contract cost, and that's a true example of shared responsibility. Please don't wait until it's too late. Approve the SRO contract and protect our students. And I would like to challenge anyone, including a member, Trustee Medina, go ahead and ask our police
enforcement officers if they're fit enough to do their job. And I would like to challenge members of our community that would like to make this about race or ethnicity or color of skin. You judged me, you judged my father, and you judged my brother on the color of our skin. Dominic and I are half Panamanian. Our grandparents immigrated here. You didn't know that because we look white. This isn't about that. We care just as much about this community and the safety of the children in this community. Okay? And I agree. More training, 100%. Let's find the funding to do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we really do need to have this conversation without politicizing the death of one of our students. It's really shameful to hear so many people tonight using that tragedy to make their political point. You all weren't the ones at the school when that stabbing occurred. I wasn't there, but I have members who were there who are traumatized to this day. So when we're using a tragedy to make a political point, it's just shameful. I want to acknowledge that as president, my words carry the weight of our membership, and I take that seriously. I'm already learning this job's not all that much fun sometimes. We have members on both sides of this issue, and each side believes that they're the ones who are putting the students first. To those who believe that SROs make us safer, I would ask you to question, do SROs actually make us safer, or is it just the illusion of safety that brings you comfort? To those who feel that SROs have no place in our schools, I'd ask you to weigh the potential of an SRO saving even a single life. These aren't easy conversations to have. As an organization, we stand for our students, and we are tasked with fostering safe and supportive learning environments where our students can thrive and learn. And I believe that we can do that without subsidizing the Watsonville Police Department or Santa Cruz County Sheriffs. I think covering 25% is shameful. They should be covering every single penny that's spent. We should renew the contract with our community partners like Barrios Unidos, who are actually reflective of our students' struggles and their students' voice. Our students need mentors of all shapes, sizes, colors, and creeds, and Barrios Unidos has a place in our school. The district should not be subsidizing the police. They should be the ones footing the bill. I would hope that we can all agree on that. We've heard a lot about SROs stop school shootings. No, they don't. School shootings continue to happen almost daily in this country. We need more mental health support, more community support, more counseling, and we need to talk to each other and come together and heal.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board. Let's see, Trustee Navarro mentioned that our students need to have a safe environment, and I encourage that, and I hope that every one of you agree with that we need a safe environment for our students. The two contracts together, the Watsonville Police Department for $291,000 and the Santa Cruz Sheriff's Department 9.2 for $147,000, add up to a total of $438,000 per year. Now, your budget this past year was $369 million, so that's 0.12% of the entire budget. I think the safety of our students is worth at least 0.12% of your entire budget. So I encourage you to vote for these two motions. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad Trustee Medina is sitting there because you're absent 50% of the time. So on August 3rd, 2021, a 17-year-old Aptos High School student died after he was stabbed multiple times on campus, and two of his classmates, a 14 and 17-year-old Santa Cruz County Sheriff Jim Hart said that are getting involved. The two kids are facing murder charges for the attack. The unprecedented act of on-campus violence, the first the sheriff says he has seen in his 33 years in law enforcement, has sent shockwaves to the community and sparked calls for, among other things, the return of the district's school resource officer program, which its board of trustees voted to remove the year before. By September 7th, more than 960 people had donated roughly $53,000 to the GoFundMe page set up to help the family of the victims for funeral costs. The creator of the page wrote that she gained the family's permission to grieve the loss and have them not to worry about how they're going to pay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it for public comment?
No, there's more.
There's more still? Oh.
I didn't know if we had a time limit.
Well, we've exceeded our time already, so yeah, I think we should move on.
Okay.
Okay.
There's still people that I'm just going to move into 9.2.
Okay, so now I will bring it back
You
to the board.
can't do that.
It
You
says it
can't-
on the card.
All right, Martha, thank you.
Okay,
I hope
we-
you're tracking all this so we can get our lawyer.
We are now going to bring this back to the board for discussion.
I'm just moving the ones that say 9.2 into the 9.2 pile.
Exactly.
Well, apparently we've moved on from that.
Okay.
Why don't you follow the rules and read all the cards? That's what we
No.
should do.
No, I've allowed it to go 15 minutes over the allotted 20, so we're going to have to move on.
So then I would like to make a motion to extend the
We do have a trustee that
time.
needs to leave by 11 tonight.
Oh,
and
now we're
so
concerned about that. Okay.
I'm
Well,
always
let's
concerned
go-
with keeping our meeting going, Gabe. Thank you.
I hope everybody at home is watching this. And
Okay.
remember, these people
So
are up for
now-
re-election in 2026. So let's organize and get them off because this is not the way to handle the
Trustee
board.
Medina. Okay, so now I will bring it back to the board for discussion.
I got it.
Trustee Medina?
Great. So since we love facts here, let's look at mass shooters and what majority. So mass shooters are racially, ethically diverse. That's true. But a majority of white, according to national government statistics. 51.1% of school shooters are white. So I do agree that we do need somebody at Aptos to make sure that our brown students are protected. So I will give you that. Second, let's talk facts. We keep hearing that the presence of an SRO prevents school violence, but we all remember Parkland, 17 people died in that massacre. Even though an SRO was stationed on campus. Uvalde had multiple law enforcement officers on site, and we saw a tragic failure to act. And this was for brown students, which I know some European American settlers don't understand. The truth is, no one has presented verified data showing that SRO prevents these incidents. Presence is not prevention. Prevention starts with trust, relationship, and mental health services, not uniforms and firearms. Students, and here's another one I heard, students like the officers. Well, not all students feel safe. We're told that students like having an officer around. Maybe some do, but what about the students who don't? I've heard from English learners, undocumented youth, and LGBTQIA+ students who feel surveilled, not supported. They are being surveillanced by police on campus. Liking someone personally doesn't erase the power dynamic. This isn't about penalties, it's about systems, and we cannot base district policy on anecdotes, especially when the stakes are high for our most vulnerable youth. Another one I hear, SROs build relationships. Yes, and relationships matter, but SROs aren't the only ones who build them. Bilingual counselors, community navigators, restorative justice coordinators. These folks build deeper relationships without the threat of citation or arrest. And they're trained in trauma, not tactics. If we really care about student connection, we should be funding those roles, not outsourcing students' trust to law enforcement. We need to act after a tragedy. What are we restoring? I understand the community is hurting after that recent tragedy. I am too. But restoring the SRO contract won't restore the student we lost. It won't bring back what we should have done sooner, which is fully fund our school counselors and crisis teams. We are reacting to fear, not acting on evidence. Safety must be rooted in prevention, not policing. And we've already learned that even full-time officers can't always intervene fast enough. There's serious violence with SROs. That's not data. We heard a public forum that violence hasn't occurred in years because of SROs, but when pressed for data, we get nothing but anecdotes. That's not good enough. We're a public agency, and we make decisions with transparency and evidence until someone shows the actual records, not feelings. We can't justify this contract on speculation, especially when it's costing the district 6 figures. Okay, 6 figures.
Trustee Medina?
This isn't the prison pipeline. Tell that to students living it. Some have dismissed concerns about criminalizations as silly.
Trustee Medina?
This is not only dismissive, it's dangerous. Across the state, we have seen even a single school citation can set a student on a path toward court involvement. Studies show that Black, Latino, and disabled students are disproportionately impacted. We are not imagining this pipeline. We are watching it operate. Our duty is not to ignore that, it's to interrupt it, okay? And our community wants this, really? I keep hearing this. The community wants this back. But which community are we talking about? Because I remember when the board listened to students and families asking for more mental health support instead of police. That wasn't one of the two. That was coordinated, community-led effort. Trustee Flores said it clearly back then. We heard the community loud and clear. So why are we backtracking now, re-engaging the same families we committed to listening to, all right? And then finally, SROs don't visit homes and welfare checks, okay? Let's be honest, when law enforcement shows up at a student's home, it doesn't always build trust. For immigrant families, that knock on the door can trigger panic, not relief. A welfare check from an officer isn't the same as one from a social worker or school counselor. We should be expanding the reach of community-based support, not turning every outreach into a police encounter. And for those of you who haven't been police, which is quite a few of you in this room, who don't understand what it is to be in our skin, I hope one day that you don't have to be experienced being rounded up by ICE officers. I hope one day that you have the equity that we were denied for many years. And as an indigenous person from this land who was actually rooted here, my great-great-grandparents are indigenous. Some of you came on the Mayflower, and I need you to recognize that indigenous practices involve the community, not just a single agency. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I can't have shouting from the audience, I'm sorry. Let's move on to the next trustee who would like to comment. Trustee Navarro, and then I'll come to Trustee Turley.
Wow. I had a couple of questions. Heather, maybe you can answer them for me. First of all, Dr. Contreras, thank you for at least getting 25% paid. I would like to know if you could go back maybe next time and try to get more, because, do you want to comment on that?
I think what's happening in the discussions that I have, and I met with both Sheriff Clark and Chief Zamora, and now we've had a change in leadership as Chief Zamora has retired, is that all of the government agencies are in the same type of financial situation that PVUSD is in, and everyone is seeing a crunch on their budgets. And so in the discussions that we had, and we met over several times, and the agencies met as interagencies with me as well, I think that they're doing the very best that they can right now. The other challenge that they're having is just in personnel, recruiting people for the position. For the SRO position, it's not just anyone who would fill those positions. And that's part of why our Watsonville position and PV High School position in the past have gone unfilled, because we look for a particular type and personality who want to be with the students and engage with them in the way that the program is designed, like with the mental health clinician and meeting those programmatic needs. So there's several different challenges, budgetary challenges, and I think they're doing the very best that they can.
Thank you. And then Heather Gorman, can you give us a little bit of information about the plan for the district about sending out information at the beginning of the school year to parents to explicitly explain how SROs are used on campus and what they can and cannot do?
Yeah, And I know this was something that was, is this on? Yeah. Okay. So I know that this was something that was asked last board meeting about having more information and creating a plan for SROs, which I have started to do. But it does take some time with other agencies. I really need to work with the police department, the sheriff department, and our principals on sites to create all of that. I have some drafts of information today that you can look at. But the idea would be is to create a student services handbook and put this information in the handbook, have it adopted by the board, so it's something that's put out and then put onto our website. And it can also be something that is put onto Parent Square or information about how we're working with SROs. But it does need to have other eyes on it.
And can you explain how the SROs and the mental health clinicians work together when there's an incident?
Well, from the information that I'm gathering and putting together with this, they have communication, they have weekly meetings, they are being trained in how to support when there's an incident. And so there's a variety of ways that they can respond when something happens. I don't have all of them at hand, but it's looking at, okay, what is the incident, what has happened, how do we go together to support and make sure that the student, the situation has the supports that it needs as we're coming there. So sometimes that means that they need to do a referral. And so they're going to assess the situation, make a referral to the appropriate agency. That may be that on campus, they need to go to the wellness center and have some time to talk with somebody and get more information, see where they're at and what is needed from school site personnel. So those are types of ways that they work together.
And then my last question is in regards to officers citing students. My understanding is that is not something that happens on campus, but this was an incident that I was made aware of that occurred off campus that was a violent assault. Is that correct?
So yes, what I have found out about citing students is that it really does need to be a parent that files a charge against the student, and then there is an investigation, and they would either cite if they find that the investigation is something that they need to cite the person for or not. And so at that point, it is out of the school district's hands, and it really does become the jurisdiction of the police officers because there has been a parent of a victim or somebody that has filed against the other student.
So the parents are involved in this process?
Yes.
I just wanted to say a few words about my opinion on this. The two main reasons that I decided to join this school board is improving academic achievement so that our students all have the opportunity to go on and lead successful lives and careers. The other main reason was student safety. And I know you don't live in my community, but it affected everybody, the stabbing. And not to politicize this, but it rocked our community. And I think it would be tone deaf to get rid of the SROs.
Thank you. I will now bring it to Trustee Turley, and let's do some tests to make sure they could hear you.
Thank you, President Flores. Am I good?
Can you hear?
Can you turn the volume up? Yeah.
Try again.
Okay. Is this any better?
A little bit better.
Okay. I'll try to project. How's that? There's one thing on the city's agreement that I don't really understand. It has a dollar amount and it says 1 for a half plus a half at Pajaro Valley High School. I'm going to assume that that means that the $290,000 is on the outside, assuming they have one full-time person at Watsonville High and a half-time person at Pajaro Valley High. If that's not true, I hope somebody tells me that. It isn't clear in the city's agreement that there is a cost sharing where the city takes on 25%, and I wish that that was spelled out clearly in that agreement. It's very clear in the 4-page Santa Cruz County Sheriff agreement. Citizens of the city and residents of the county pay taxes into law enforcement, and I seem to recall maybe 10 years ago, there was a measure on our ballots that brought in millions that were supposed to go to first responders. And I think people who voted for it felt like it was going to fire and ambulance and sheriff and kind of shared. But as I recall, 100% of it went to Santa Cruz County Sheriff. And although everyone's having a push in their budgets, I recognize that. I don't believe law enforcement is under attack in the same way that public education is. And I really wish and implore them to dig a little bit deeper and help us with this. I'm very concerned about the promise of reduction in federal funding, probably about 10 million just to our district. And although we have an overall budget of 390-something million, we only have about 40 million in discretionary funding, and the sheriff and the SRO programs come 100% out of our discretionary funding. And if we lose 40 million or 10 million from the feds, we're not going to be doing very much other than what we're mandated to do. When my children were at Watsonville High, there was an SRO who I felt like was completely ineffective. I feel like he believed it was a punishment that he was assigned there. We need to make sure that if we're moving forward with this, that we have the right people in the people who like to and become trusted confidence to our young. I request anyone who's out there in the room or listening, if you have any contact within the federal government, if you would implore them to continue funding public education so that we will have funds to be able to continue with SROs and other desperately needed things for our students. And for those of you who are students, faculty, and family members of our students, for me, the district survey is very telling and is an important piece of information for me in evaluating this. So if you're not filling out those surveys that come out every year because you think nobody cares about them or does anything about them, that's not true. Please let your voice be heard on those surveys, as well as coming and talking to us and sending us emails and phone messages as we have been receiving. I think that's all I have on this topic at this time. I do wish that we had postponed it so that Joy Flynn could have participated in this, but thank you for your time.
Thank you, and I'm going to allow Dr. Contreras to answer. She had said in the beginning that the contract didn't seem to show the 25.
Yeah, and there's two different contracts, and the second contract that we haven't talked about yet tonight does show that. And the reduction in the first contract, which we are talking about now, shows a reduction which is due to the 1.5 staff. So there is less staff in the first contract.
Okay. You're muted, Trustee Turley.
Specifically says anywhere in that agreement that the city is bearing 25% of that cost.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so she says she does not see in that contract where the city is sharing in the cost, but it's from what I understood is it's kind of how we handle FTEs. So it's a 1 point. Sorry, go ahead.
1.5, so it's not 2 full-time SRO.
Yes.
And so the reduction comes from the reduction in force.
Yes. Okay, does everyone understand?
Are they paying for that extra half? Is that what you're saying?
The 0.5. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Trustee Carrasco or Trustee Carrasco?
Okay, so I have a question. Are SROs allowed to cite students on campus?
So currently that is not their practice. They do not cite students on campus unless there is a parent that files a complaint against a student or charge against a student. And so then that becomes the police jurisdiction. Usually that doesn't happen. That citation doesn't happen on campus.
Okay.
You cannot shout from the audience. I will have you removed, Mr. Dieguez.
And then my next question is, when will that handbook be ready? Where it gives everybody a very clear, a clear perspective of what they are allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do.
We are working on it now. I would like to get it ready as close to the beginning of school as we can.
And I ask because I personally would feel a lot more comfortable knowing what I'm saying yes to or what I'm saying no to. And I also would have loved to have all of our community, including parents that I have interacted in the last year here. I know that a lot of parents from DLAC had a lot of questions about SROs. At the time, I didn't have the answers, which is why I asked for that handbook as well. And I know that citing is something that we talked about and it was concerning. So thank you for clarifying that. And then my other part is I would love to hear more about parents at Watsonville High and PV High and how they feel about it. Because as I am out in the community and I'm speaking to them, a lot of them either much rather fund teachers and staff or different things for the kiddos. And I would also like to see the city and the county take more responsibility in trying to finance it, because I really do think that it is a public service, and it's something that I've been saying for a really long time is we need them to also, take part in this. I know for our expanding learning programs, we gave the Parks Department like over $500,000, right, on Camp Wow. So we're a community, and I just feel like we need to work together a little bit better.
Thank you. Trustee Dodge, did you have any comments?
For the last few years, I have, and I will always will, as long as I sit in this trustee area seat, will support Watsonville High School having a resource officer. Time and again, I've listened to the voices of my constituents, and it is clear. A majority of them support having an SRO on campus. Many parents and community members have told me directly, knowing that a Watsonville PD officer is present at the school gives them peace of mind here. They feel safer when they drop their children off in the morning, knowing there's someone there to respond quickly in emergency, and they do build relationships with students. I've also heard from several representatives on the Watsonville City Council who themselves reside in my trustee area, and one of them spoke today. And they too have expressed their support for maintaining SRO at Watsonville High School. For many years, I've never talked about what happened at Aptos High School. Many years ago, when that student was murdered, I received many graphic emails detailing what happened to that young person that day. How he collapsed and bled out in front of his classmates and teachers. How the adults on the campus did everything they could to help compress his wounds, and how long it took paramedics to get there. That image has stayed with me all these years. And I truly, deeply believed if an SRO had been present, things might have turned out differently. As for Watsonville PD, I know many of these officers. I grew up with one officer. We went to Mini-White together. Another, I played Little League at Ramsey Park. A few others, I even graduated from Watsonville High School. And another officer I went to high school with, just last month, my daughter just graduated. What I know about these officers is this. They wake up every day not looking to throw people into jail, but to make sure our kids are safe. They care about this community. They want to be here. They want to make sure our high schools are safe for every student and for every family. With this vote, we're doing our best to make sure what happened at Aptos never happens again. We are choosing to prepare to protect and to reassure the families who entrust us with their children every single day. And once again, I've been saying this for many years, the safety and security of our students is up to us. So that's why I stand here today to make it clear that I will continue to listen to my constituents and our community. And as long as I serve in this seat, I will stand with the families, students, and residents who have made it clear the majority of Watsonville parents want an SRO. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item 9.1, that we have an SRO at least here at Watsonville High.
And now for my final comments, I would like to, I know all the data, I know how our program works, I know it's been successful since we've implemented it just not too long ago. I like how we have it paired with the mental health clinician. SROs help develop and implement safety plans and are quick responders. They're trained to de-escalate conflict. They respond to threats, including potential school violence. Their presence can deter bullying, fights, drug use, and other criminal behavior. When SROs engage positively with students, they can build trust and serve as approachable figures of authority. Many SROs serve as informal mentors, helping students navigate personal and academic challenges. SROs may offer support in threat assessment and behavioral interventions. They work with the school staff to promote a safe learning environment, including during drills and lockdowns. SROs help foster a cooperation between school and our Watsonville PD or our sheriffs. Our SROs are trained in adolescent behavior. SROs trained in adolescent behavior may recognize signs of mental health struggles, abuse, or even gang involvement. They can refer students to counseling, social workers, or other supportive systems. And we have our mental health clinician right there with them. When implementing our SRO program, it is important to weigh potential concerns, such as ensuring proper training, avoiding over-policing, and maintaining a focus on student development rather than punishment. I believe PVUSD ensures these best practices, and we have the addition of our mental health clinician to also ensure that that happens. Our program prioritizes student relationships, equity, training, and accountability. An SRO program is also most effective when the officer is seen as a trusted adult, which we have seen with our three on our campuses. Watsonville hasn't had theirs for a while, but he had an amazing relationship with the students. And our PV SRO and our Aptos SRO have great relationships with their students. And lastly, we've heard from our students, our staff, and our parents who took the time to complete that survey. And the results were overwhelmingly in favor of keeping SROs on campus. We can't deny that. We can't ignore that. Everyone had the opportunity to participate in that survey. It was up for a week, and those who wanted their voices heard has had them heard through that survey. So with that, I second the motion that Trustee Dodge made to approve this contract tonight, and I will now do a roll call vote. Trustee Turley? You need to stop, Omar. You need to stop. Trustee Turley?
Yes.
Aye. That was an aye from Trustee Turley. Trustee Dodge?
Yes.
Yes. Trustee, make sure you're into the mic. Trustee Carrasco?
No.
No. Trustee Navarro?
Yes.
Trustee Medina?
No.
And I vote yes. So that motion passes 4-0-2. Sorry. I'm sorry. That motion passes 4-2-0-1.
Goodbye to y'all.
Thank you. I will now move on to item 9.2, approve Aptos High School Resource Officer Agreement. Report will be presented by Heather Gorman, Interim Executive Director of Student Services.
Good evening again, President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Contreras. So this is the second agreement for the Sheriff Department for Aptos High School. It's mostly just the amendment, which extends the contract until June 30th, 2026.
As it has already been noted, there's a 25% reduction, and that's not in force, but that is the dollar amount that they reduce the cost. And then again, and it shows the cost there on the document. And the second document that is attached to this agenda item is also the survey results, which are the same that were in the first item. So I ask that you approve this.
Thank you. And now, do we have public comments?
We do. Omar Dieguez, Pam Sexton, Elias Gonzalez, Bernie Gomez, Bobby Marchesalt, Brandon Denise, and Chris Webb.
SROs do cite our students on campus. I've been on campus at Pajaro Valley High School. I've been at Aptos. They do cite our students on campus. There is no due process. There are no policies to protect our students. If we need to organize to bring those families forward, we will. You guys are voting on something without setting any kind of due process or any kind of policies to protect all students. To be honest, they shouldn't be on campus, SROs. What we need is mentors. What we need is more counselors. That's what we need to build stronger and empower our youth, to build more confidence, to have more CRT, conflict resolution teams on campus, instead of having police on campus. I have been on the campuses. I have seen, I still go to court with these youngsters to advocate for them. So it's a lie that they do not cite our students for stuff that happens off campus. I am telling you, it happens. You guys are opening yourself up for a lawsuit. You know, I'm telling you, these families are wanting to step up, but they're scared. And that's what we're here for, is to advocate for them. We're going to advocate for them. We're going to continue to fight against SROs. They are citing our students on campus for stuff that happens off campus. And they're doing it without a parent present. They're minors. Ms. Flores, you're not even acknowledging that I'm here.
I want to recognize that this is two different motions. The last one was for Watsonville, this was for Aptos, but somehow we kind of lumped it all into one big conversation, which I don't think was fair to these motions, first of all. I do want to mention, while we can have different opinions, I am one of your constituents, Trustee Dodge, and I know that there are many others who disagree. Who's in the majority? I'm not sure, but I don't believe that it's a clear majority in your area. That I know you do. But I'm letting you know, I don't know that that's the case. I think that's who you talk to, but it may not be. There's a lot of concerns I have, even regarding, we keep talking about the surveys. I hope you know, like, those were sent to students' emails, not mentioned by any teachers. My students, I got 2 sons who were at Watsonville. They didn't even know it was in there. Have them take it during one of their periods so we had such a small sample size. But I also want to remind you all that you are now discussing one in Aptos with one of the representatives for that area, not here. And that is not fair. And you know how much power you would take away from Gabriel Medina if you listen to the community and just let the board vote on whether or not to table it? The reason we give him power is because he chooses to listen to us. And I mean, I've told Gabe, we have some issues with each other at times, like I've disagreed, but I don't understand the issue with allowing a vote. I've been in so many Robert's Rules meetings. It is okay to choose to allow a vote to table. Let the board decide. And by the way, I heard us threaten to kick out Omar. I've heard Gabe be threatened to kick out. Please kick out the gentleman in the hat over here. Do the same threat he yelled through all of Gabe's comments. If we're gonna do it, we gotta do it across the board, please. I got more, I don't remember it right now, but thank you for your time. I do ask that you would consider taking a motion to table this until the representative from this area can be present to be a part of the conversation. Thank you.
This was by
Yeah, I was here in 2021 when this SRO issue came about. You know, I think the only person that was here was Dodge. I think, you know, and it was the same type of like environment. You know, there was like this us versus them. You know what I'm saying? Like, you had the Aptos folks, and then you had everybody else, right? I don't think that people are saying that, you know, about law and order and all this stuff. It's like, or that we are being political about it. No, you know, it's like, this is not an anti-police like narrative or whatever. You know, it's like, yes, we want public safety, we want student safety, right? We just believe that we can find better solutions that are more cost effective, right, than just having this false sense of security because you have an armed person in campus, right? I know a couple of cops. You know, I by trade I paint cars, and I've done their cars and stuff like that. You know, it's like, and I'm also formerly incarcerated. I've also have that experience, right? You know, it's like, and I know them by first name. They know me by first name and stuff. You know, but that doesn't negate the fact that there is no data that says that schools are safer with police. There is the data, right, that shows that disproportionate impact and confinement when you have SROs in campus, especially here. I'm a juvenile justice delinquent prevention commissioner for Santa Cruz County. You know, so I see the numbers of juveniles in the HOD, juveniles on probation, right? I've done my research. Now, so I'm just saying, going back to this thing of my last comment actually is cost effectiveness, right? It is cheaper to have something else, where you be creative. When I went to Aptos, there was a security team of 5. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna take a couple more seconds just because, you know, and so either way that this board has made up its mind, right, just, I want folks to know that we can do better than police and schools, right? We can do better. We gotta come to the table, you know what I'm saying? And this is not race baiting, you know, this is really about responding to people's rhetoric too. Just, I think Casey's
My mic's off, so I'll shout it out. Your time's up. Thank you.
don't mess up the cards next time, you know, because I'm cool, you know what I'm saying? I try to, you know, do the things, you know, by the book here, you know, be respectful and shit, you know, but this is an important topic, you know, and so just don't test it.
Hi, I'm Pam Sexton. I'm an educator here in Pajaro Valley Unified School District, and I care so deeply about this issue. I've been engaged in it since I came into the district. I've done a lot of research on it, both about the history and also the local data. We know that SROs in our schools, the data matches the national statistics that more kids with IEPs, kids who are disabled, kids who are brown, are more impacted. Black, brown, indigenous are impacted, and that does feed this school to prison pipeline. I am here representing other people who aren't here, and to hear people say that all of the parents think this way or all of the students think this way, I can't, it doesn't jive with my reality. And talking to students at Watsonville High, talking to teachers I know there, talking to other parents, we need to have more conversations, because safety is such a deep thing, and that we need the idea of proximity, having staff close to a situation to diffuse. That's valuable. It's not having an armed police officer, and there's data, and the conservative institute, the Cato Institute, I shared in an email with y'all. It says more harm is being done by SROs than benefit. Please look at what I sent to you, Trustee Dodge.
Thank you.
Buenas noches again. I was looking around. I'm glad there's no students in this space. Really glad there's no students because the trauma that you guys are all creating is going to be long-standing. We are definitely creating an us versus them dichotomy here, right? We can come together and build community, but that's not what you guys are doing. And I'm looking at leadership in this space, right? This whole notion of public safety, we have to leave that. We have to redefine what public safety looks like, and that's not a police officer holding a badge no more. That was, remember, the time of protect and serve, but that was protecting and serving certain groups. The reality is that I wish that folks would have responded to emails. I'm in someone's district, and I'm not going to call that person out because that's not what I do. But people don't respond to emails, and I wish you would have responded so that we could have a dialogue. So I could have shared alternatives with you. I shared an email with all of y'all, and I provided alternatives to what we could do here, and thank you to those that responded, but unfortunately I don't care for the responses, I care for votes in this space. Right? The reality is that when you look at a sheriff's budget, and I think that's what we're talking about this one, I want to talk about Watsonville, but the sheriff has over $130 million. A budget of $130 million. Let's talk about that. And the reality is that we talked, is this about against Sheriff Clark? No, we had Sheriff Clark in our office. We talked to Sheriff Clark about this. And we said, we're gonna have conversations about this. The reality is that, again, we talk about data, there is no data that proves this, right? The data that was given up here can get distorted by anybody. We know data can get distorted, and data was distorted because, thank you, Jessica, Trustee Carrasco, for actually saying, where are our Watsonville parents here? Because I heard a lot about our Aptos parents. So those Watsonville folks that represent, like I said, let's stand up now, right? Again, with that being said, Maya Angelou said, people will remember what you said, or people won't remember what you said or did, people will remember what you did. People are remembering what you all are doing.
Thank you.
All right, I want to speak again to share that last year we did receive reports from our members that one of them actually was cited for a parking citation by an SRO on campus. And we do have students being cited by SROs. And so it's really Orwellian to have folks up here who will believe a district administrator who doesn't have quite the boots on the ground as the other people. So it seems like we just believe these administrators because that's what you all are being conditioned to do in some of these workshops that you've had. And when we hear things like, okay, well, where's the handbook for how the resource officers are supposed to operate? Oh, well, we're working on it. That's your opportunity to demand a higher standard and say, well, finish it, and then we'll vote, instead of voting on something that's half-baked. You all need to hold our district employees to the higher standard, and you have the ability to do that. I'm glad that, Daniel, that you have a passion stance on this issue, because far too often I feel like you can be a little bit of a passenger in these meetings. And at times I look for you to have that strong voice, because you are a veteran on this board and your voice does matter. So I appreciate you sharing that. I want to see it more often, and I want to see it side with the members. Because last year we were looking at laying off mental health clinicians, laying off counselors, and everything I hear about making students safer is including the mental health component. So are we going to approve these contracts, subsidize the SROs, and then next year be laying off mental health clinicians? Also, we need our schools to have robust MTSS programs, behavior programs, because all that is just buzzwords. And these are the programs that we need to catch the students before they're getting to the point of violence, before they're bullying and getting into all these fights with each other. We need to intervene early and often, but our systems are broken. So, and lastly, if the Watsonville Police Department and Santa Cruz County Sheriff want to be a partner in keeping our students safe, they should foot the bill.
Chris Webb, teacher at Watsonville High, who does not support SROs, feels less safe with them because I'm not protected if I want to defend my students and they want to violate their rights, as they did in the 23-24 school year. By the way, the admin who was approving that illegal search, now they'd probably say, oh, locus parentis and loco, that the principal, we can decide, we're the parent, we can do whatever. I would say parents should have a right to, if a teacher is willing, like take that responsibility on. And also that same admin is later the one who's going to reject mentors from PV High. So there's so much about what I'm hearing here that just the integrity is not there. Additionally, for the people here who only come out for this, and we'll see if we ever see you again until this comes up again, I would say when people are calling out others, invoking your group, invoking white supremacist codes like law and order, that in of itself is not race baiting. It would be the actual use of that kind of language. And I noticed in the lot, somebody in there has the same sticker of the guy who ran on that, and that's the same guy who had the support of the KKK and later refused to disavow the KKK on February 28, 2016. So like, just look in the mirror. Some of this stuff is ugly. Dr. Navarro, I think it was improper for you to give a rationale for 9-1 that really should have been applied for 9-2. I think that vote was problematic. I also want to say that we need, this timing is not good. Like, remember we had the special board meeting here, it was packed. That time, Trustee Dodge, it was a bunch of, it was 2/3 Watsonville High people and community, pretty much all brown, and then you had like a white Aptos one. Here, because it's the summer, kind of flipped. So I think the timing is problematic. I think it looks especially bad with Flynn not here. I think that all the prerequisites are not there. Additional prerequisites, we need to talk about uniforms. We need to talk about what's going to be the rules with arms on campus. And they are
Thank you,
definitely
Mr.
not for
Webb.
de-escalating.
Thank
A
you.
teacher could do better on all the fronts, all the benefits that they would
Thank you,
supposedly
Mr.
provide.
Webb.
Thank you.
Is that all the speakers for this item? Yes. Okay.
For 9.2, you put in a card? I put it in for 9-1. You didn't call me. You said you were going to call me for this one.
Then Gabe told me I couldn't.
Okay, it's all right. Go ahead, Dr. Go ahead, Dr. Barraza.
I am so disappointed with this board taking action without transparency. Dr. Contreras, you keep talking about transparency. Where's the transparency here? Back in May, when I first brought up the issue of what are the guidelines, you said, we have none. I said, then let's get some. And when this came up, I said, we should not be discussing this until we get those guidelines. You guys chose to do that anyway. So please don't talk about transparency when you chose to ignore that. You know, President Flores, your privilege is showing so much. You keep talking about how this survey was for everybody. Do you know if the people in Pajaro have access to computers? Do you know if they have email? Was it written in Mixteco? No, it wasn't. Yet you talk about how it's offered to everybody. That's your privilege speaking. Yes, some of us have computers, some of us don't. So don't say that it was offered to everybody and everybody had their voice, because we know this on this side of the county, we have a lot of people who don't have basic needs. So please stop having your privilege show. And Trustee Dodge, you need to read research. We consistently send you research and you never read it. Your choices and your decisions are based on the small group of people that you talk to, your constituents, that little group, not everybody there. So you guys are not representing the overwhelming amount of parents. Or somebody here said they speak for all parents. They don't speak for all parents. And I'm really amazed that some administrators are allowed to lie here. They don't get cited on campus. The reason this whole issue came up with the guidelines was because we knew they were cited on campus. And I don't want a kid in high school to have a criminal record because they tried to break up a fight. As somebody who is a clinical psychologist who works in this field, I can tell you that that is not the way that you address these issues. And this is why we send you information. And those of you who haven't read it need to read it so you can make an educated choice. As somebody who was a student in this district, who was a teacher for 10 years in this district, and now I'm a clinician in this area, I'm telling you this is not the choice. And there's absolutely no evidence, President Flores, that SROs save lives.
Thank you,
We
Dr.
have no
Barraza.
evidence about that. We do have evidence that more
Thank you.
kids
Your
from
time is
Watsonville
up.
are in the juvenile system. We do have that evidence. We do not have evidence that it prevents that. And for those of you that
Thank
don't
you,
know,
Dr.
there's things called
Barraza.
flock cameras. You know how many flock cameras are in Watsonville? 20. You know how many are in
Thank
Santa
you.
Cruz?
Your time
8.
is up.
You know
Thank you.
why is a city like Santa Cruz that has so
Dr.
many more
Barraza,
people
please, your
have
time is
less
up.
cameras?
Everyone else has been respecting the time, Dr. Barraza. I need you to also respect the time. Thank you.
Hello again, Dane Odegaard, born and raised in Watsonville. White privilege is a myth. Everyone in this county, everyone in this state, everyone in this country benefits from American privilege. Okay? You live in the wealthiest nation on earth. Even the 10%, okay, listen to this statistic. Our most impoverished are the top 10, in the top 10% of wealth owners in the world. There are nations that are far worse off than us. With that being said, throwing things around like white privilege, okay, I don't have any privilege beyond American privilege. I have had to work for everything that I own. Okay, I'm taxed as much as all of you. The real problem might be that we all look at the tax burden. And we can bandy about statistics and you can manipulate statistics. 40% of mass shooters, according to some statistics, were on psychotropic drugs. For what reason? We dope up our young men in schools because instead of recognizing that they are men and that they have energy and that it needs to be directed, we give them mind-numbing drugs. And then when they get off of it, they go and shoot up their schools. Why is that? Okay, psychiatric professionals, let's take a look at that. Another statistic for you, 24%, only 24% of schools in America have armed security. Our schools are soft targets. Banks, our civil leaders, many of our private institutions are all allowed to have armed security, yet we leave our young men and women in the public school system. We have guards here tonight. I challenge you. I challenge you to tell me that the brown, okay, the many people of color in our law enforcement departments in this county don't care about the students and would offer
Mr.
to help.
Odegaard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay, is that it for public comment? That is all the public
For
cards.
9.2, if you want me to go back to the 9.1s that we didn't get to, I can do that.
No, it's okay. So that's it for 9.2. Okay, so now I will bring it back to the board for discussion. Okay, we'll start with Medina.
Test, am on? There we go. Since I know this board doesn't like to read, and I've been informed that we've broken many Ed Code and Brown Act violations, which I'm hoping we're doing better at, but with this board leadership, I can't guarantee that, Marta. I'm sorry. They're horrible. So let me read you Education Code, Title II, Elementary and Secondary Education, Division 3, Local Administration, Part 23, Supplemental Service, Section 3800, Section E. This is by our California legislature. This is probably something the superintendent was trying to keep from us. It is the intent of the legislature to evaluate the presence of peace officers and other law enforcement on school campuses and to identify and consider alternative options to ensure pupil safety based on the needs of the local school communities. It is the intent of the legislature to consider encouraging local educational agencies to use school resources currently allocated to such personnel, including school police departments and contracts with local police or sheriff's departments for pupil support services. Get this, such as mental health services and professional development for school employees and cultural competency and restorative justice as needed. If found to be a more appropriate use of resources, based upon the needs of the pupils and campuses that serve them. California Ed Code, people, that we're not reading, that Heather Gorman's not reading, that most of the cabinet isn't reading. Heather Gorman, for you to come up here and tell us that students are not getting cited by SRO officers is shameful. 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 Okay? So, don't listen to these people when they say about this survey. That survey did not capture everybody. I have parents that speak Mixteco, Triqui, and other indigenous languages, and they were not factored into that. So again, I'm gonna keep saying this. You saw how Danny voted right now, right? We need to get these people out of these seats, or we're gonna continue to delay, let people give us wrong information, misinformation, and not cite actual educational policy that we should be following. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yes. Yes, you may.
Because I think something seems to be amiss with what I said around citations, because I've heard it a couple of times now and just been said that it's been shameful what I said. So I did not say that citations do not happen.
I heard how you framed it, and I know what you were trying to do with the language there.
I did not say that citations do not happen.
It is very shameful that you cannot acknowledge that most of our brown students are being cited by these officers.
So
when I ask you questions, I don't want it just isolated. I want to know everything, and you have yet to provide that. I've asked her for SRO data. Has she told you about that? Probably not. I haven't received it. Okay, so you're probably even being fed information that you're not being able to utilize, which is quite unfortunate because you get picked on, not the superintendent.
So I just did want to make sure that that was clear, and that the idea that I was trying to convey is that there are citations that happen, and they would happen on campus, but it is due to a parent that has filed a complaint. And so at that point, the police officers do take that out of the school jurisdiction, and they are the ones that do the citation and the investigation. They do work with our school administration. They look at videos, and then they decide whether or not it is worth a citation or not.
So are you calling the person that attends court with our students a liar that these aren't happening?
I am going from all of the information, and I know, somebody else said that, the boots on ground, but I am talking to the Watsonville Police Department, I am talking to site administration, and we are looking at the data of the citations, and this was the information that I'm given.
So you weren't given the full scope of information to make a much better decision, correct? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm telling you what the information that I'm given after the research that I've done.
Yeah, this is a running quote from the president. I know what I know, right? So, thank you.
Thank you. And just to clarify again, and repeat it again, those instances where you were aware of there being citations was because a parent came forward to press charges, and at that instance now, it is out of our hands. It might happen on our campus, because that's where they maybe, the situation happened, but if a parent is going to press charges, then unfortunately, yes. But I believe all 7 of us trustees would hope that our SROs are not citing, on our campuses for, and if there's no other, well, no, I think we're going to say, going forward, us 7 trustees would really like in our policies and procedures that not be, not even a last resort, but a no resort, unless, like you said, a parent of a victim comes forward, then it's out of our hands. But we have restorative practices in place.
Right, that's
and
correct.
That is, citing is not one of them.
That's correct.
So, do we have, Trustee Navarro? Oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Contreras wanted to comment one.
I did want to clarify about education code. We are aware of, and we do follow that education code. We have multiple restorative practices training in place. We have multiple people and staff who have been trained and continue to be trained in restorative practices. We follow PBIS, which is Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. Many of our sites have won awards for their positive behavior intervention and supports programs, which is also inclusive of restorative practices. We have mental health clinicians that are paired with the school resource officers, which is part of that programming. And as we have said in the past, that we see the school resource officer and the mental health clinician pairing as a program that we would keep and want to keep with fidelity because of the results that we have seen and because of the community input being strongly in favor of that partnership.
What community?
So we
What
continue doing
community?
that.
Trustee Medina, you
I'm
had your
referring
time.
to the surveys that we have done, and we have
That are
longitudinal.
very skewed and inaccurate.
We have longitudinal data of those surveys. We do the best that we can in putting the surveys out and trying to get as many people as we can with those surveys.
Okay, and you know, I
Thank you,
I-
Trustee
I have
Medina.
a hard
You've
time
had your
trusting you
time.
because you've lied to me multiple
Trustee
times.
Medina,
so it's
I've
very
had
hard
time.
for
Lied
me
to you,
to
Trustee
say that.
Medina.
And when I request information, it's not given. When I ask for things, it's not given. And you were the
Trustee
superintendent. We
Medina,
are your
that
boss.
is inaccurate
when
information. I
Oh,
have
it is?
provided you information that you have asked for at every instance.
Where's my
There
report
are
on the chemical
times-
fires in Moss Landing? Where's my
There-
report on how much you expensed out of your budget before your evaluation? Where's that report?
Trustee Medina, you approve every single expenditure that
I
I
actually
make
abstained.
through consent agenda as well as through action items. Trustee Medina, some of the information that you are requesting takes multiple months to get to. And the chemical fire information that you're asking for, I have to contract out with services to be able to get that information.
And wouldn't you
That
think
is
it'd be a
not
kind courtesy to
information
say,
that-
hey, we're
Trustee
doing
Medina.
this now?
Yes, Trustee
It
Medina.
would,
I
right?
have responded to you.
No, you haven't.
About that
No,
information.
you haven't. I have
Yes,
emails. Everybody saw the TikTok post I put about the agenda items I requested.
Okay, we're
Did you
going to
guys
move
see
on
those?
to hear
I
from all
didn't.
the other trustees. Trustee Navarro.
So first of all, Dr. Contreras, I'm so sorry that you have to deal with this bullying from an employer with no recourse. Thank you for all the hard work that you do.
Criminalize the brown guy. We love doing that.
I understand that your primary job is to oversee 34 schools and to make sure that our students are learning. And unfortunately, you spend a lot of time cleaning up messes and trying to obtain information. So thank you for what you do. Secondly, Mr. Gonzalez, I just want to let you know I did respond to your email. I respond to all of my emails, and I applaud your efforts for the alternative strategies, and also Ms. Sexton. Anything that we can do to make our kids safer, I think we should look into. So I advocate for all of those things. Also, Mr. Webb, my comments on Aptos, even on the last agenda, extend to all of the schools, and so I therefore felt it was relevant. Our job up here is not to push our political agenda. Our job up here is to speak for our constituents. Our constituents have been very clear. Our student trustee, Daniel Esqueda, who all of us love, did a survey, and it was very clear that students and parents and staff overwhelmingly wanted to keep things as is. I received email. You're out of order. Thank you. You're out of order. Enough. Stop acting like a child, and please just go.
Keep going. Keep going.
Anyway, back to what I was saying. The survey data is very clear that the majority of our community wants to keep the SROs. I get it that there is a very vocal contingent that comes to these meetings, but it is not representative of our entire community. Most of the people are watching online, and they are sending me emails, and the majority of the emails that I have received have overwhelmingly supported keeping the SRO contracts. Thank you.
Trustee Turley, did you have a comment? Oh. Okay, go ahead.
I made my comments as far as the SROs during 9.1, so I'm not going to belabor that. But I do want to say that I'm not in alignment with comments that have been made about white privilege. I recognize
Speak up if you can, Trustee Turley, I'm sorry. If you can speak up a little louder.
I recognize that I've had advantages that others might not have because of skin color, and I think that that exists, and I acknowledge that. I'm also not in alignment with attacks on staff members. I think that kind of thing I personally prefer to handle privately. That's all I have to say on that.
Were you able to hear Trustee Turley? Yes? Okay, so she had, do you mind, Trustee Turley, if I repeat what you said? Okay, you correct me. So she said she wanted to acknowledge that she does agree that she does have privilege, and that she has heard some comments today that does not exist, and so she wanted to say, make it clear that she does realize that she does have privilege with the skin that she has. Is that correct, Trustee Turley? Oh, you broke up. So, okay, she's not in alignment with statements that have been made, and she does acknowledge her privilege. And then the second portion was she is not okay with our staff being attacked, and she would prefer that that would be handled outside of these meetings. Correct?
She did. And I don't attack people publicly. If I have issues, I take care of that privately.
Okay, if she has issues, she takes care of that privately. Thank you. Okay, and she also said that all of her comments that she said for 9.1 are echoed for 9.2. Thank you, Trustee Turley. Okay, Trustee Carrasco or Dodge?
I'd just like to make a motion to support agenda item 9.2.
Thank you. Trustee Carrasco, did you have any comments? No? Okay. So I already mentioned, you know, how all of us feel about no citing. I do want to acknowledge that I do know that there are some families who might not have access to surveys at all times, but all of our students go home with Chromebooks, and most people also have cell phones, and I know that those are given out for free. I've seen that happen around town, so I'm sure the majority of our parents do have cell phones. And also, it was mentioned that those years ago when this room was packed to decide, you know, whether we wanted SROs, and it was mentioned that 2/3 was Watsonville and 1/3 was Aptos, but I do also remember at that time all the trustees up here who voted in favor of it acknowledged to everyone that they received over 200 emails from Aptos, the Aptos community. So just because they weren't here in the room didn't mean their voices weren't being heard. They did send emails, as like Trustee Navarro just mentioned that she has received several emails. Of the 3 high schools, Aptos has been the most vocal about wanting to keep SROs. So in years past, we had voted on this item with all 3 schools in one. So now, and we were told you need to separate this, so now we have. And so I would hope that the school that has been the most vocal about this will receive their SROs. So with Trustee Dodge made a motion to approve item 9.2. Do I have a second?
I'll second. I just want to make one more request to Ms. Gorman, that I would really like to see it done before school starts so that it can go out.
So I do have some draft information. I feel strongly about making sure that I get input from Watsonville PD, from the sheriff, and I don't want to come back to a place, and teachers, staff, students, you all. And so that does take time, and especially with the added. So I can share the draft here with, it has other information on it that I put together so you can look at it and you can give me your feedback. And I can talk to Dr. Contreras about our timeline of how quickly we can do this.
I just think it's really important, you know, with this new school year starting, that parents are very clear about the role of the SRO.
We do have an item coming up later on to have a meeting added on July 30th. It would be nice if it could be ready by then, possibly for us to see. Yes.
Or at least a
Okay.
draft.
Yes. Okay. Okay, so Trustee Navarro, were you?
I second.
Okay, so Trustee Navarro second. So I will now take a vote and I will roll call. I'm going to start with you, Trustee Turley.
Yes.
Yes from Trustee Turley. Trustee Dodge?
Yes.
Yes from Trustee Dodge. Trustee Carrasco?
No.
No from Trustee Carrasco. Trustee Navarro?
Yes.
Yes from Trustee Navarro. Trustee Medina?
No.
No from Trustee Medina, and I am a yes. So that motion passes 4-2-0-1. Thank you. Okay, and now I will move us on to item 9.3, resolution number 25-26-01 of the Board of Education of the Pajaro Valley Unified School District stating intention to issue Pajaro Valley Unified School District general obligation bonds during fiscal year 2025 through 2026, directing and authorizing actions to provide for levy and collection of ad valorem taxes for such bonds in fiscal year 2025, 2026, and taking related actions. This report will be presented by Dr. Heather Contreras, our Superintendent of Schools.
Okay. So normally this would be a report done by our CBO, so bear with me. Basically, this resolution is a resolution to ask the board to approve us seeking to levy the tax to get our first series of bond dollars. So I'm going to read in the detail so that we check all of the legal boxes. But this is exciting because we're getting our first issuances. It's currently proposed that the board act to issue and sell an initial series of the authorized and unissued general obligation bonds, which is our Series A bonds, in the fiscal year 2025 and 2026 in order to provide for the payment of principal and interest in Series A bonds during the same fiscal year. It's desirable to request the County of Santa Cruz and the County of Monterey to provide for the levy of the estimated ad valorem taxes in order to pay the debt service coming due.
Heather, sorry. Do we have security here today?
We could probably, well, the officers are out there. Yes,
Okay.
they're out there.
Okay. The California Ed Code allows a school district to request the levy and the collection of the required taxes within its boundaries in order to pay for bonds to be issued during the corresponding fiscal year. So resolution number 252601 states the intent of the board to issue and sell the Series A bonds and request that each county set the necessary tax rate and provide for the levy and the collection of the taxes in order to pay for the principal and interest issued on the Series A bonds that will come the corresponding fiscal year of 25-26. So the school district's financial advisor, which is Dale Scott and Company, who you have met before, will provide a proposed schedule of estimated principal and interest payments for the proposed Series A bonds and include the amount needed to be collected as tax revenues within the district Series A bonds in fiscal year 25-26. So the adoption of this resolution 252601 will enable the district to move forward with the issuance and sale of the Series A bonds as planned and to have the tax revenues available to pay the principal and interest on the Series A bonds attributed to the 25-26 fiscal year. And so we ask the board for the approval of this resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve. Where'd Danny go? We don't.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve.
Oh, we do have one comment.
Oh, okay.
No, that's three. Never mind, we don't. Do we have to adjourn?
Okay, so you have a motion to approve? You've made a motion, okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, trustee Carrasco seconds. Okay, thank you, trustee Turley. I will call a roll call vote. Trustee Turley?
Yes?
Yes from trustee Turley. Trustee Carrasco?
Yes.
Yes from trustee Carrasco. Trustee Navarro?
Yes.
Yes from trustee Navarro, and that would be a yes from me. So the motion passes 4-0-0-3. Okay, and I would like to take a recess. Thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. Thank you. Okay, we have quorum. So we will go ahead and move on to item 9.4. Oh, sorry. I now bring this meeting back to order at 9:14. Thank you for allowing us a short recess. We will now return to our agenda, and we are on item 9.4, approval of intent to apply for administrative credential waivers. Report will be presented by Kit, our director, sorry.
You're fine.
I'm thrown off here.
It's all
By
good.
Kit, our
No worries.
Okay, so this is our Assistant Superintendent of HR.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. Contreras. Thank you. This should be brief. I'm delighted to share this action item with you. We're in a position often when we bring new administrators into the fold to sometimes have to apply for waivers as they're working their way through coursework, et cetera, to be fully cleared for credentialing. And what's nice about this opportunity for us and what Ed Code allows for in this process is we get to grow some of our own. And so when you see the 4 names listed here, these are all Pajaro Valley Unified School District employees that have come up through the ranks, had teacher leadership opportunities, and ultimately are now in candidacy for administration. And so with your approval, what we get to do is go back and we just apply for a simple waiver, which allows them to continue in their coursework, continuing towards clearing their preliminary administrative credential, and then ultimately clearing their administrative credential.
Thank you. Do we have any public speakers to this item?
We do have one, Mr. Chris Webb.
I've come to really appreciate the value of having good admin, and I think it's great we're bringing people up through the ranks. I think this item should get full support. I also just want to share, I would normally say this as part of my, I meant to say as part of my 8.1 remarks, but because of some changes, can't do it. So I would want to say, because partly in this past year, I've realized that like a lot of times the union and the admin are working together, and sometimes I felt bad for admin because I felt like they weren't, like in some of these, like they have open positions, couldn't fly them, or different situations were coming up, and I really felt bad for some of the admin, where I think it was difficult for them. So but a couple things I would want to recommend for new admin is, one is like making sure that we're not empowering people to be administrators who are not administrators. And I'm not talking about the people you're naming. I'm talking about like other, let's say they're the same level in the rankings, and sometimes they take on certain roles because of their time at a site or certain favoritisms develop. Also, I want to make sure that, like, thinking of relationships, that when we do move people, that we're thinking about those relationships. And I'm not so sure that that always is the factor, because some of the people who've been moved, I think even of Renaissance, there were some people who were moved who had seniority, and even just recently had seniority, and then they're getting messages about being moved. I think if that kind of thing happens, and even if it's an honest mistake, well, at least apologize, because that's really hard on somebody's summer when they get a bomb like that dropped on them. Also, if you have advisors and teachers teaching leadership and getting kids to survey on issues like SROs, do not stand in the way of that. Let people do that. If a student comes and they want to advocate for themselves, their program, their favorite teacher, they should have a right to do that, and we shouldn't be attacking teachers for that. And we also shouldn't be retaliating against teachers who do bring a grievance. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other public speakers to this item? Okay, I will now bring it back to the board. Trustee Turley, I saw you raise your hand. I'm going to bring the mic to you.
I move approval.
Okay, Trustee Turley makes a motion to approve.
I second.
And Trustee Navarro seconds. Any comments before I take a vote? Okay, so I will do a roll call vote. Trustee Turley?
Aye.
Aye from Trustee Turley. Trustee Dodge? Aye from Trustee Dodge. Trustee Carrasco?
Aye.
Aye. Trustee Navarro?
Aye.
Aye, and I am also an aye. So motion passes 5-0-0-2. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, you're up again. So now I'll move us on to item 9.5, Williams Quarterly Report for April, May, and June 2025. This report will be presented by Kit Bragg, our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources.
Thank you. And with this report, what you see, is a summary of any Williams complaints that have come through, been addressed, and resolved through our system of anybody ultimately being able to raise a concern through the Williams Act. And what you see here is that there's one item. In this particular case, it was a facilities issue. Teacher came forward about a concern with regard to the facilities issue and the heater relative to the temperature in the room, and it was addressed by our team through this process, and so it is now resolved. And you'll see this 4 times a year, each quarter.
Thank you. Do we have any public speakers to this item?
We have one.
Okay.
Brandon Denise.
I want to shout out our maintenance crew. I can't even imagine how overwhelmed the work they do is and how backlogged everything is. I think I remember a presentation during the school year that there was something like over 1,000 requests through School Dude, and only 200 of them had got through. And I know that our maintenance department is doing the best that they can. And I also know that a lot of the issues with facilities that our teachers are facing don't always make it onto the Williams report. So I condemn the teachers who did do this, because it takes a brave person to be the one who actually files the report. And we've been having issues with the HVAC system at certain wings of Aptos High School for years now. So I would just ask that it continue to be monitored in case something happens. And I know that the cooking teacher at Aptos High School has been raising issues that classroom gets too hot to be safe for students, and we need to find a way to remedy that. There were concerns that next year the school was going to increase the class size for that CTE program because our class size in contract is 35. So does that mean that we can pack 35 students in a cooking room? I think those are discussions that we really need to be careful about because our students' safety is in jeopardy when they're in a room with ovens, knives, and it gets that hot. So thank you to the maintenance crew for addressing these issues, and thank you to our teachers for filing this report.
Thank you. And I will now bring it back to the board for discussion or motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion to approve.
Second.
Trustee Turley seconds. Okay, if I see no other discussion, I will call for a vote. Trustee Turley?
Aye.
Trustee Dodge?
Aye.
Trustee Carrasco?
Aye.
Trustee Navarro?
Aye.
And I am also an aye. So that motion passes 5-0-0-2. Thank you. Okay, I will now move us on to item 9.6, approval to convert July 30th, 2025 special board meeting into a regular board meeting. This report will be presented by Dr. Heather Contreras, our Superintendent of Schools.
Okay, so we had the July 30th board meeting was scheduled as a special board meeting labeled Superintendent's Evaluation. This was due to our previous schedule and how in the past superintendent's evaluation had been done prior to my arrival. We do have a need to hold that board meeting mainly because of Measure M projects and approvals that we will need by the board to continue. We're doing a little flurry of activity around that. So we're requesting to have convert that meeting to a regular meeting.
Thank you.
I second.
Hold on, before we do that, do we have any speakers? No public speakers to this item? Okay, so Trustee Turley made a motion to approve, and Trustee Navarro seconded. Any discussion from the board? No one has an issue with July? Okay, so I will move to vote. Trustee Turley? Aye. That's an aye from Trustee Turley. Trustee Dodge? Aye. Trustee Carrasco?
Aye.
Trustee Navarro?
Aye.
And I am also an aye. So that motion passes 5002. And that concludes our action items for tonight. So I will now move us on to our report and discussion items. We have 10.1, our final report from FICMAT for the Special Education Department. Report will be presented by Carolyn Beno, Chief Analysis, Fiscal Crisis, and Management Assistant Team.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having us tonight to present our report. I'm Carolyn Beno. My background is of a special education teacher. I point that out intentionally because I'm a non-traditional FICMAT employee. As you know, most of the employees work in the finance side, but I worked as a special ed teacher, a vice principal, a special ed director, and a SELPA director for many years before coming over to FICMAT. I'm joined by Tim Purvis. I'll let him briefly introduce himself as well.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Contreras. Pleasure to be here this evening, and also my third visit back to Pajaro over a few decades and everything.
Okay, if you can advance the slide. I know my colleague Marcus Werowick was here a few months ago presenting his report, so I think I'll skip over the information about who FICMAT is. So if we could advance another slide. I will emphasize that our reports are a deficit model, meaning that we don't point out all the great things that your district does. We focus on the gaps. So I just want to remind all of you of that. I will highlight a couple areas of strength throughout this presentation this evening, but I do want that to be a reminder about our report. So if you can go to the next slide, we're going to focus first on your special ed enrollment. So I think it's important for us to talk about who these students are before we talk about some of the needs here. So if you go to the next slide, what we see here is declining overall student population enrollment. This is occurring throughout the state. This is not news to you. What is different here is that your special ed enrollment is also decreasing. In most districts that we visit and in most districts across the state, we see special ed enrollment increasing even though overall population is decreasing. So this is a positive actually for your district, I believe. I think many districts, due to COVID-related factors, are over-identifying students for special education. There may be some of that going on here, but overall that is not nearly as big an issue as it is in some districts. So I want to highlight that as a positive. I'll talk about why that might be occurring later. But overall, you are increasing in terms of the percentage of students in special education. So it is something to watch and be aware of. So if you can go to the next slide, I want to point out that you are a little higher percentage-wise in terms of the number of students in special ed than the county and the state averages, but you've always been a little bit higher here. I think some of the root causes of this are kind of the general education supports outside of special education. From what we heard in interviews, this has been a huge area of focus. You have a new multi-tiered system of support system that people are receiving training in and is still being incorporated into all of your schools. It sounds like it's functioning better at some schools than others. A huge positive, one part of that system is your positive behavior interventions and supports. It was already mentioned tonight, you have many schools that are award winners. You also have a trainer on your team that does a lot of work with restorative practices, and that is very widely viewed in your district as being effective. And we would consider those two strategies tools to help prevent students that don't require special ed from going into special ed. Now you might wonder, well, special ed's a good thing. Why don't we want more kids in special ed, right? Well, it's expensive to serve more kids in special ed, right? And students that don't require that service are better served in general education. So I just want to point out your percentage is a little higher. It's something to watch, but I think you have some good things in place to help prevent that from really continuing to grow. So if you go to the next slide, I do want to point out that English learners are underrepresented in your special ed population, meaning that when we look at the percentage of students in your overall population that are English learners and those in special ed, we would expect them to be approximate of one another, and they aren't. So here you have fewer English learners than we would expect. We provided some resources in our report to help your district dig into that a little more to see if that is an issue here. It may not be, but your data shows that it may be, okay? In terms of how your students qualify for special ed, you've had a large increase in the percentage of students with autism. This mirrors the data across the state. One thing that's interesting to me, though, as someone that gets to go to districts across the state and analyze this, your percentage is about half of the state's average percentage for students with autism. So even though it's grown quite a bit over the last few years, you still identify less students as having autism than the state average. So I just point that out again, not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but it's an interesting thing about your district. If you go to the next slide, we want to talk a little bit about staffing. So as you can imagine, if you identify a higher number of students with disabilities for special ed, you need more staff. And again, your special ed enrollment is actually decreasing, which I think is positive. So it's always important to look at staffing each year, look at the student needs, look at what else these students are, or these staff are doing for students at the schools, and then determine kind of what staffing levels are appropriate. So when we go to the next slide, I do want to point out that one of the things we did is compare the staffing at your district office supporting the special ed program to comparable districts. We had 6 other districts that responded to the survey, and we did find that you have more administrator leadership type of positions. These didn't necessarily require an administrative credential, but there are more positions in your district than in the comparables. And you had also more administrative support positions. So those would be like data support and secretarial kind of support positions. So I do want to point that out. If you go to the next slide, we looked at staffing for resource specialist teachers. These are teachers that support students in general education classes. You're staffed a little bit more than what the education code requires. However, what we found is that because your district is implementing what we consider an inclusive model, meaning that you're trying to make sure kids have access to general education, which is absolutely the right thing to do, that your staffing seems adequate to us in light of those facts. So we believe you're about right staffed in terms of your resource specialists. When you go to the next slide, we noted that you also have specialists that have an ed specialist credential is what it's called, and they're serving students in general education classes. And you are staffed right within the range of what we would expect based on the state averages that we see other places. So again, this is, I think, really positive news. I think your district is paying attention and evaluating student needs, but also being mindful of how many staff you really need to serve these students. If you go to the next slide, we looked at staffing in your special day class programs. One of the things we found is that you use ratios to staff these programs, which is a positive practice. But some of your ratios don't match what we believe are kind of the best practices across the state and the state averages. So we would recommend you look at those and see if any changes need to be made. If you go to the next slide, when we look at staffing for your special day classes, so these are self-contained classes for students with disabilities, what we found is that for most of your programs, you were staffed perfectly within the ratios that we would expect you to be staffed within. So again, I think that that is positive. One area that we found that you might need more staff actually is your district-wide autism SDC program. You had fewer staff, meaning you had higher class sizes than we tend to see across the state. We're not saying that you have to add staff. We just are kind of shining a light on that fact and saying that it's something you should investigate further. If you go to the next slide, along those same lines, we also looked at staffing for special day classes for kids with extensive support needs. So those are more significant behavioral needs or medical needs or disabilities, more intensive disabilities. And what we found is, again, you were right staffed in pretty much every area except for middle school. So again, we thought that you might have to increase staffing actually at the middle school level. So that's something that your own team should evaluate to see if that would allow you to provide better service to students. If you go to the next slide, we looked at staffing for instructional assistants. So those are classified staff members that work inside the classrooms and in general ed classrooms. You use both what you call instructional assistants and behavior technicians in this district. I think it's a positive practice to be using specially trained behavior aides. I think that that's something I want to point out as, again, something positive that your district is doing. When we go to the next slide, though, we did find that you have quite a bit more staff serving in those roles than we would expect based on the number of students in the programs. So we analyzed each school and each class that had special day classes, and we used our statewide staff to student ratios. And we found that we thought you may be staffed as much as 50 higher than what we would expect based on the statewide ratios. So this doesn't necessarily mean you just reduce by 50, right? Because due to student needs, you sometimes need additional staff in a classroom. So this is an area, again, that we're shining light on. It's something that we have seen creep up across the state post-COVID due to behavior support needs. We also have a lot of teacher turnover right now, right, in special ed. And I think when you have newer teachers, sometimes you need additional staff to help in the classroom. So this is something that we believe you need to look into further, and it's something you should just kind of be mindful of. If you go to the next slide, we looked at staffing for one-to-one paraeducators as well. So these are where a student has an adult with them, either throughout the whole day or for parts of the day. This can be very counterintuitive for people. I think many people think a one-on-one aid is always very positive for a student. And while it is sometimes necessary and can be very positive, it is costly and it can hinder a student's opportunities to gain independence. So on the next slide, and I'm not sure if it's still able to be projected, but I shared some research out of the University of Denver on, thank you, on how a paraeducator in the classroom, or in this case, you call them instructional aides. They're exactly the same kind of job classification. But essentially, they can have negative impacts on a student when they aren't necessary. So positively, your district uses a rubric and has an assessment process, but it seems like you've probably still added more of these aids that might be absolutely necessary. So again, we're shining a light on that and suggesting you look into that further, okay? The last area that we looked at were related service providers. So these are staff such as school psychologists, adaptive PE teachers, physical therapists. So other staff that do work in your schools with students who have special education needs, and a couple classes that work with students both with special education needs and without. So what we found is that you have more staff than we would expect in certain areas. If you could go one more slide, thank you. And one more, yes, this is one back, sorry. Thank you. Being above the industry standard means that your caseloads are lower from these staff that we would expect, okay? So again, we're shining a light. We're saying you should look at this further. We believe you should look at kind of the assessment load, how many students are on the caseload, how much they're driving around from school to school, things such as that, to see if any changes need to be made. And then if you go to the next slide, A different area that we looked at was staffing for teachers who are deaf and hard of hearing, and we found the opposite for this. We think that you may need to increase staffing for teachers that are deaf or hard of hearing, okay? Again, further analysis is needed, and it may be that your staffing is adequate based on the needs of the students you have, but we think this is another area that you should look at. So I'm gonna invite Tim up in just a second so he can be ready kind of on deck after I share some recommendations about professional development. So given that you have kind of an increasing percentage of kids in special ed, one of the things that we would recommend that you focus on is professional learning around that multi-tiered system of support, and specifically a strategy called Universal Design for Learning. So this is training for teachers and other instructional staff on how to make sure that the learning environment is designed to accommodate the differences that students with disabilities have. So our recommendations for professional development, if you go to the next slide, are related to those areas. Another area that we highlighted in the report was just a need, and this is not something that just your district struggles with. Your instructional assistants need better access to professional development. Again, this is an issue in every district because of their schedules and time, but as budgets allow, prioritizing some training for them, specifically in areas such as disability awareness, how they kind of work with students in the classroom to differentiate learning for those students, I think is critically important. Okay, so wanted to highlight those couple things. In terms of your general fund contribution to special ed, I think you're probably all aware that special ed is expensive, that districts across the state, there isn't one that is able to live within their budget, okay? So the federal and state resources that support the special ed program, if you can advance 2 slides, are not adequate to meet the needs of the program. Okay, so districts all make a contribution from their general fund, okay? So that means your LCFF dollars. And these contribution amounts vary quite a bit across the state, and part of the reason for that is how expenditures are coded, okay? So for example, one district may charge costs to transportation and another district may not. And that may mean their contribution to special ed is vastly different. So we made some recommendations in our fiscal section around some coding differences that we noted here compared to kind of most districts that we think if you made those changes, it would help you be able to determine more if you're more comparable or not to other districts. And we attempted to kind of normalize your costs along those lines, okay? So if you go to the next slide, your contribution to special ed in 23-24 was 68.48%. It's a little bit higher than the state average, but again, I do think you need to be cautious when making those comparisons because the data is not always comparable. Much of your increased contribution is really due to collective bargaining settlements, right? So staff, making more money. On the positive side, the district's legal fee and settlement costs have declined dramatically over the last few years. So that's a huge positive for the special ed department. They are successfully resolving conflict at low levels that isn't causing the district to incur high costs. So that's, again, a huge positive for your district. If you go to the next slide, your contribution to special ed is actually going to decrease slightly, or was at the time we analyzed the data a couple months ago for the 24-25 school year. So again, this is a positive. It means that you're monitoring these costs, you're trying to be as efficient as possible while still meeting student needs. So another positive, okay? I'm going to hand it over to Tim, and he's going to talk a little bit about school transportation.
Thank you, Carolyn. And real quickly, I failed to give you a little bit of background. I've spent about 41 years in public education. 33 of those years were in a large suburban unified school district with a large single SELPA district, Poway Unified, and then prior to that with a large high school district. And probably logged a couple hundred independent studies with FICMAC and school services in my company. Pleasure to be here again, and I'm really excited because, as Caroline indicated, it's a deficit model, but also timing's everything. You've recruited a really sharp individual, I think. I just got a chance to spend a few days with her at a conference. She's very data-driven, and I think you've got a wonderful roadmap ahead for her in the area of transportation. With that said, the district next slide, please. Used to the clicker. The district operates an internal program, which simply means that it's a standalone transportation program in comparison to what a smaller district program might be, where sometimes it's modeled under a maintenance, operations, and transportation. You're well fit for that, staffing-wise. I wouldn't consider you small. You're moderate in size with a large responsibility. The district's reporting that as of the 24-25 school year, and we were able to validate by backing into your individual routing sheets, because the routing system is not fully implemented at this time, but you're already moving forward on that you're transporting 494 students. 431 of those students receive transportation as a result of having an IEP identifying the need for transportation as a necessary related services. And I just want to point out that 29 of those students, you're moving on a non-yellow bus, which is absolutely fine. You're moving them as ed code permits, fewer than 9 passengers on what we call an alternative transportation passenger vehicle. We pointed out here, and again, the transportation section is pretty rich on recommendations, but we pointed out here because Pajaro is no different than most of the clients we're visiting, and that the requirements of Senate Bill 88 codified into ed code has brought into effect a lot of legal requirements for not only your contract staff, which is big in Pajaro, but also those staff that are transporting students in a non-yellow bus. The department is on top of that. They're doing so. I was able to have a very rich conversation with a leader within your HR area, and the district is moving forward to make sure, because you have coaches, you might have IAs transporting students, etc. So we highlighted that in the report. You're moving 14.9 students on a bus, and we want to celebrate that because within the state, the average is anywhere between 10 to 15. Doesn't sound like a lot of students, but when you're in a semi-densely populated area or rural area with long distances to cover, which you have here, and you're trying not to exceed, for a child, a ride time that goes much more than an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half at max, to achieve right at 15 students is pretty well, and that speaks volumes about the hard work of your 4 dispatchers and your dedicated router, and one of those dispatchers is dedicated specifically to special ed. Now, we'd like to see the district be able to move more of those students we're going to talk about in a moment, but I don't want that to overshadow the good work that's happening in the department now. In the 23-24, next slide, please. And one more. Oh, back up one. Sorry. In the 23-24 school year, you spent approximately $72,000 per month on contracted external transportation providers. Again, Pajaro is really no different than what we're seeing in a lot of organizations coming out of and recuperating out of COVID. We had a lot of staff that took either early incentives or they might have been a few years off from retirement and they just never reappeared after COVID. As a result, North America saw the greatest shortage, and we still are in commercial drivers, school bus drivers. We are. You're in, I'm not saying you're remote, but you're in a challenging area to recruit drivers, and so you're suffering from that to a degree. Hence, you're dependent upon, especially on the special ed side, mandatory transportation when that student's identified within the IEP, and we need to give some attention to that. We point out that 2 of the companies you're using are what we call transportation network companies, TNCs. That's not negative. There's nothing wrong with that. I just want to help explain why these costs are so high. A TNC, think of it as an Uber type of service with the regulation behind it with SB 88 now, but an Uber type of service where that operator may not be a direct employee, could be, but may not be a direct direct employee of the company you've contracted with. And again, not a negative. We have, SB 88 guidelines behind where we've been trying to clean that up for about the last 5 years. But you're also only getting 1, 2, possibly 3 students. In most cases, when I was looking at your face routing sheets and what have you, the TNC companies were being used heavily, but they were only transporting 1 and 2. I saw very few with 3. So where you might think of using that type of company is you have a child with a special need going to maybe an isolated program, a program where you don't have a lot of other students going to, might be behaviorally driven. But we want to highlight here because we're seeing some students pre-identified to be with a specific contract provider, such as a TNC, before the transportation router and scheduler get their hands on that. So, as we move forward into the future, and something we're, emphasizing as a collaborative discussion, going back and forth, transportation folks are very professional. That's why I wanted to highlight the achievement they have of almost 15 students per route. Let them be part of that decision-making process, because sometimes the influences that come through the IEP process that a parent may place on that for individualized transportation very well may be warranted, don't get me wrong. But make sure this is being assessed through the IEP process. Next slide. And again, I've already commented that the dispatcher and the router both commented to me that they feel they can incorporate more students, but also they weren't aware at the time, we hadn't ran the data, that they were achieving a pretty high ratio, equal statewide, and the buses they were. Simply put, we need to have the drivers in place, which we're going to talk about in a moment, and buses in place, essentially more routes. Additional routes operated by Pajaro, though, will save you because of the high cost, and that's why your per student and your per route costs are so high, because we were not able, and it's buried in the report, not necessarily highlighted here, but we were not able to track your special ed costs separate from the general ed costs because everything's co-blended. So there's recommendations in the budget section to track those costs separately to get a better handle on exactly what those costs are. Right now, and again, not unusual, in lieu of that, the district simply kind of divides it by mileage and it's rounded. You can do that, and in the report we suggest, though, upping the percentage of mileage being used, if that's the philosophy that's going to be followed for dividing the cost. I'm a very data-driven individual. I'd say let's get the budget underhand within transportation, working with finance to track those costs separately. The big item, and I want to slow up here, though, is the district is heavily impacted by driver absenteeism within the department. And I think it's getting overshadowed a bit because sometimes we knee-jerk in a budget, and okay, if we don't have the drivers there, we're going to hire more drivers, and the district's been very good at that. We're seeing a very high number. I believe there's 8 identified, maybe 9 in the report, of a floater type of driver or a driver that's employed without having a direct contract or route, I should say, to fulfill. Yet during my time on site with your team, one day specifically, 6 or 7 of those individuals that are the cover drivers are absent or on personal leave or vacation. It could be approved leave, don't get me wrong. But on top of that, there were 6 or so additional permanent drivers, meaning on route assignment. What's the effect of this? You have you're sized and fitted appropriately in your staffing in the department. You have 4 dispatchers, you have a technical router, plus you have the instructors and everyone else that makes the system run. But when those individuals are in a bus and can state that they're in a bus 1, 2, or 3 times a week, and that flows over into the vehicle maintenance team as well, well, that would help explain why you have a very good routing system here. That would help explain why that routing system hasn't been fully implemented. They only have so much time. I was moving interviews around while I was here to catch folks between runs and what have you. So there's a heavy recommendation in the report to collaborate, do whatever work you need to do with HR. you know, to address this matter, because you've approved the FTE in positions. Again, we normally would look to see that you're around 3, 5, 6% in permanent substitute or permanent cover or extra or floaters or whatever you want to call them. You're exceeding that, and you're still having that exposure. So serious issue. This is also why you can't build additional routes, and you have the talent in the department and the capability and the technical routing system, although you need to get the training for the staff as mentioned, but you need to develop additional routes. You can't begin to do that right now if you don't have the drivers to drive it. Little off scope for us, but FCMAC was generous because we do think it will impact special ed, and that's where our lens was, is that the fleet is aging here. The district's done a good job participating in alternative grants that have come by. Nothing's ever free though. You've got to get that infrastructure in and what have you. You do have some electric buses out there, but within the report, we took the time and broke down the age of the fleet, etc. Take note of that, and you know what? These are hard times. They always are. Sometimes I'll have a director say to me, well, Tim, we don't have the money, so we don't have a replacement policy. No, you always have a replacement policy. It may not get funded as often as you want, but it gives you something to bite at that elephant's knee a little bit. If not, it's going to come back, you know, to burn you deeply. That too, all these things you've heard me say, if that bus isn't out there and ready to go, or if 50% of that maintenance staff is driving a bus, that means you're getting dangerously close to a required 45-day, 3,000-mile safety inspection not getting done. We didn't do a deep dive. We didn't see anything that went over, has in the past. I can say we saw some that came within 24, 48, 72 hours. That's just simply too close. And that's not even mentioning the preventative maintenance cycles, etc. I said all this really fast. What I wanted to conclude with, though, literally your new director was coming on board while we were here. I think she had been in the office 5 days. She's very sharp. She's very data-driven. Had the opportunity here. She's also a state certified instructor. Make sure, though, you backfill these positions. I think you have 2 within the academy now, and I think they graduated from what I heard. So that's great news. I was worried about that when I was here because she can't, just like everything else we're talking about, the router needs to be routing, the dispatcher needs to be dispatching, the mechanic needs to be working on and doing preventative maintenance schedules on buses. Your director needs to lead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so do we have any public speakers to this item? No?
Actually, sorry, we do. Chris Webb and Brandon Denise.
Thank you.
Whereas pesticide use can affect incidences of special ed diagnoses, I want to thank PVFT for their recent actions and fighting for our students to have safe schools. I think PVSD should partner in that. And then also part of the issue that I hope some of our guests here understand is that it's about the notifications as well. They have to be like practical, and also given what was said about the funding, I also think we as a district should be pushing for a tax on the application of pesticide use and then use that revenue to fund our special ed programming. Also, I agree with MTSS PDs, but I think, and you know, maybe for like IAs or something that's needed more than others, but like I think generally speaking, it's got to be more about I think the implementation is where I've seen roadblocks, and that's kind of a more of an admin thing. So that's another reason why I would say like with the what was it, the ethnic studies PD, like that kind of PD that was supposed to come for admin would have helped in that front as well. Also, given that some of our SPED students, you know, maybe dealing with police and the like, I think like something was brought up about, you know, parents wanting to press charges. As soon as you bring the officer on the campus, like that becomes a question that wouldn't have been a question before, and if you had better systems, a lot of times parents can be assuaged knowing like, oh, there is a consequence, here's what's happening to restore things. If you have those type of things, the parents would probably be less likely to press charges on other students. I think teachers should be allowed to pick their aides. We might be able to get away with less aides if we just empowered our teachers to be able to choose the aides that are actually going to do their job. And if you're an aide who's just going to be on your phone the whole time and possibly like harassing a teacher trying to run them out because you wanted somebody else, like that's a real problem. And we need to have management that's willing to address that and not perpetuate that hostile environment. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I want to thank Dr. Contreras for your willingness to go through and pursue this report. I know this is something that we've been asking for a long time, and it's not always easy to expose our flaws, so thank you for that. I could have told you that we were overstaffed in the admin level, and I think we have been. I was really surprised to see that we're so overstaffed in instructional assistants. I wonder if there could be potentially some absenteeism issues there, where on paper we're overstaffed, but in the classroom we feel understaffed, because I don't think any of our members would say we're overstaffed with IAs. I want to share that we recently negotiated a MOU to give our education specialist at middle and high school a case management prep period. And so I hope that we're working with all of our principals to ensure that we not only have that case management prep period, but we're being strategic with it, and we're using it to help promote inclusion, because we may have inclusion happening at the high schools, but at middle school and elementary, it doesn't quite feel so robust, and we need time to be able to collaborate and plan with each other. We definitely support universal design for learning, but again, that is where's the time component to sit down as a team and to work together. I feel like in the past we had an MOU where the district would basically pay for somebody to go get a special ed credential. And I would like to see us look into something like that and more of training our own, because year after year we bring in teachers who are on waivers, then we chew them up and we spit them out, and they don't actually, many of them don't actually go on to get their credential and become that teacher of record who's going to stay in this district for years. I feel like MTSS, we really need to hone in and have a uniform system from school to school, because it feels like somehow MTSS is so broken that it sets up roadblocks for students who need support and then is manipulated into over-identify students. So let's look into that. There was one more thing. Yeah, just the low number of English learners in special education. Part of me feels like that's because it's a little harder for our community in South County to get those assessments. But I just really appreciate all the work that Heather Morin is doing, all the work that our special education teachers are doing. I know it's going to be a hard year, but we're in it for the long haul.
Thank you. Okay, so that's it for public comment. Do we have any discussion from the board? Any questions? Trustee Dodge.
Thank you for the report this evening. To have a neutral eye come in and to look at our special ed, because I've had questions and concerns, and I think a neutral voice was good. So I'd like to thank you in the report. Just a question that I had. Did you I know we had another report/audit. Were you guys able to interview any workers, any instructional aides, teachers?
So we conducted focus groups over 2 days, and we did have a group of instructional aides that included behavior technicians and aides. I think there were 9. I'd have to go back to my notes that attended. We also talked to teachers. We talked to resource specialists and special day class teachers.
Is that something that we could read in the report? Or is that something else we could see?
We have a policy actually that we don't ever name anyone in our reports. We look at themes across what different groups say, and that's what we report on.
Because, for example, we just did an audit of our human resources and our payroll,
Yeah.
and they didn't put names, but they just had some concerns and where people were able to speak freely. And
I'm sorry, it's not our model to do that.
Okay. But anyways, thank you.
Thank you. And then just to clarify, so I thank you for the in-depth research into our transportation. That was very helpful, because it has been an area where we struggled, and we're very thankful for our new director, and hopefully we'll bring things up to speed. The absenteeism is an eye-opener. And as Mr. Denise mentioned, with IAs and us being, 50 over, did you see any trend there with absenteeism?
We didn't analyze data on absenteeism, and it didn't come up in interviews. So that doesn't mean it's not an issue, but that wasn't something that came up. Themes that came up included the two that I mentioned. So teacher turnover causing more just lack of organized classrooms, and a need for more adult support in the room. So that was one thing that came up across groups. And then also this idea of just higher behavior support needs following the pandemic, so kids just needing more support. But we didn't hear about absenteeism in terms of the IAs. Again, it doesn't mean it's not an issue, but that wasn't something that we were told about repeatedly.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the board? Okay. Good. Oh, Trustee Carrasco.
In your opinion, why do you think that English learners are underrepresented in our special education identification process? And what do you suggest that we target for outreach or evaluation strategies for it to be more equitable?
So we didn't analyze the root causes. That was beyond the scope of what we looked at, but there is a report that is referenced that West Ed did that walks through how the district can do its own root cause analysis of why students might be underrepresented. My feeling on it is that you have students here that speak languages that are not necessarily the languages that test materials are typically translated into and interpreters are used, but it can be hard to give an assessment through an interpreter. So I think that may be part of the reason, but there may be other reasons, and that West Ed report that's referenced in our report will be the right guide for your district to use.
So I appreciate the report and the focus on our SELPA program. Will you be doing additional work with the district as a whole?
We won't be doing additional work with the district. We really aren't set up to do kind of technical assistance or anything like that. We really design our reports to kind of point a flashlight, so to speak, on certain issues that we see as being different than the state average, for example, or themes that came up in interviews that we think you should look in further. And then we try to provide resources to do that, like that West Ed report that was referenced. So no future work.
The future work is on us. All right. Any other comments? Okay, well, thank you very much for this, and have a safe drive home. Okay, I will now move us on to consent agenda. Consent items are routine items coming before the board. Do we have any public speakers to consent? No, seeing none. I will now bring it back to the board to see if there are any items you wish to defer. Trustee Turley?
Approval of the consent agenda.
Okay.
I second.
Okay, so if there are no items wishing to be deferred, Trustee Turley has made a motion to approve the consent agenda as is, and Trustee Navarro has seconded. Okay, I will call for a vote. Trustee Turley?
Aye.
Trustee Turley's aye. Trustee Navarro, Trustee Dodge?
Aye.
Trustee Carrasco?
Aye. Trustee
Navarro?
Aye.
And I as well vote aye. So that motion passes 5-0-0-2. Okay, and so now we have no deferred consent agenda items to discuss. I would like to announce that our next regularly scheduled board meeting will now be July 30th, and that will take place in the district office boardroom. And I adjourn this meeting at 10:06. Thank you.